Shit, hold on, I'll be right back. Oh yeah, all right.
Right. Let me get just situated here real quick. Get started. Pete, are you back yet?
Oh, I'm back. I'm
back.
ready.
He's back. He sent out the facts last night. He told me he's back.
I'm back. And I've never been better.
But yeah, we're going to start in just a second, everybody. I just want to make sure that we're live on all platforms now. Just to let you know, we are officially live on Kick as well. I know I'm not supposed to be promoting other streaming platform services on YouTube. I know they get really upset about that. But just other avenues and other places to just put our content out. So I'm just letting you guys know that we're also available there as well. Working on some other places too. But we're always going to be live on YouTube. That's where the main bread and butter is. So again, hopefully you guys are enjoying what is today? Tuesday? Man, since we have
It is.
It is break, it's
it doesn't feel like a Tuesday, I'll tell you that much.
No, it definitely doesn't feel like a Tuesday because we have so much excitement to go over, especially when it comes to the NBA and of course the day of the NBA playing game. It's the most wonderful time of the year. NBA playoffs. I know that March Madness kind of takes a front seat when it comes to March, but as soon as it turns April, it's the NBA's time to shine. And of course, just like the NCAA, we of course have some play-in games to discuss. We're going to talk a lot about that stuff. We're going to talk a lot about the playoffs themselves. We're also going to talk about the NBA awards. I know that this is the most divisive MVP award discussion that we've ever had here. Not on the channel, but just in general for people. We also have some news to talk about. Of course, that being some coaches might getting hired, some coaches getting fired, and of course other news that we'll talk about. If you guys want to know some of that news, LaMelo Ball uncertain about his future in Charlotte. We got the Mavs concerned that Luka will be impatient and will leave, and Zion Williamson not being ready for the playoffs, and Trae Young could potentially be on the move, according to some sources and insiders that are out there in the NBA. Take it with a grain of salt. Of course, all of this is just rumors, but that is stuff that we're going to be discussing today. And before we discuss any of that, Pete, how you doing, man? It's been a minute.
I'm doing good. Wait, hold on. Can I breaking news? It's not really breaking news, but the Hornets will not go big game hunting, even if sold with their free agency money. I just feel like that's the funniest news headline I've seen. Like you don't need to tell us that. We know. we get it. It hasn't changed in your whole existence. You don't need to break that news. No, I've been good, man. I've been watching a lot of basketball, I'll tell you that much. I've been watching a lot of basketball. Trying to get caught up on some of these prospects before our summer of drafts and mock drafts and discussions about these guys. So I was watching a lot of the young dudes coming up, a lot of NBA, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, definitely a lot of NBA. And so, guys, what better way to get started? Let's get right into talking about, let's talk about the playoffs, because I think this is going to be a very interesting thing. I think what we'll do is this, Pete. And let me make sure. Are you live on camera, or do I need to?
I got a webcam. I got a webcam. Not that people are going to be that interested to see me just sitting here, but I do. It is
everyone wants
up
to
and
see your
running.
mug, man. We want to see the mug.
See the mug.
But with that being said, we're gonna kind of do this. I'm thinking what we're gonna do start first with, of course, is the NBA playoffs. Talk a little bit about the play-ins, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. We'll go into the award show, and then after that, we'll go right back into the playoffs. Talk about who we think are going to be the champions, and then we'll get right into the news and rumors. So I think that's kind of the direction that we're going to head in today. So I hope you guys are ready for this. You know, of course, this is recorded live. But we're also gonna, cut it into segments as well. So if you missed one segment here, you of course will have the segment a little bit later on. Or if you just want to watch certain segments later on in the day, or maybe a different day, we'll of course chop that up and have it on a different day available for you as well. So be on the lookout for that stuff. Because again, we're trying to grow a little bit of this channel, and what better way to grow than by cutting up stuff into segments and letting you guys enjoy it. But with that being said, let us start really quick with, of course, the NBA play-in tournament. This is, of course, going to be between four games, 8 teams, all battling for the 7th and 8th seed. We, of course, have the 9-10 Pelicans versus Thunder. We have the Lakers versus Timberwolves. And, of course, we have the Raptors, Bulls, and the Heat Hawks. Again, for the 7 and 8, I believe that they kind of go into a they're going to be battling out for the 7 seed. Losers are going to be battling it out for the I believe the 8 seed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. That's how it works. And so with that being said, especially if we look at this game right here, the arrows make a perfect segue into like where teams will go if they win. So of course, between the Lakers, Timberwolves, if Lakers win, they'll go to the 7th seed. If the Hawks win, they'll go to the 7th seed, or the Heat win, they go to the 7th seed, or the Timberwolves, they go to the 7th seed. The winner of the Pelicans and Thunder will immediately go into that 8 game to try and play for that 8 seed. But let us start off quickly, Pete, with talking about let's start with the Pelicans and Thunder, because I feel like this could be a very interesting one to talk about, because we are both fans of both of these teams, even though one team you would say had a very disappointing end to their season. And that's really the Pelicans, because of the way that they started out. So at the beginning of the year, and then they've kind of petered off with Zion Williamson getting hurt, and Brandon Ingram, of course, not finding that consistency and also getting hurt at some points as well. So what do you make about this matchup in particular?
This one's kind of interesting, because I would disagree slightly in the sense that I do think the Pelicans really picked it up at the end. Like, they really were terrible for that middle stretch of the season. No Zion, no Brandon Ingram, and then Brandon Ingram comes back. He's looking rusty as all hell. But they, Willie Green coaching his butt off, got them back to the play-in. So the momentum is a little bit on their side. It weirdly feels like they reset themselves to the end of last season, right? Where they got themselves in check after a horrific beginning of the season last year. And then they, Brandon Ingram and all their, they got CJ in the middle of the season, and they all kind of meshed together towards the end. It's hard not to be disappointed, because they do feel behind schedule based on like where they were coming into this season and the expectations. Then on the other side, you have the Thunder, who have like greatly, outperformed expectations. And, this is like the craziest young team we've seen in a long time, just stacked to the gills with talent. This one is really tough. Like, I don't really know if I have like a definitive who's going to take this one. I really don't think it matters for either of them. I think either one of these teams is an easy out for the next team they're going to face. That being said, I can't help but worry about the Thunder. Like, they don't have a big. Like, they don't have a center. On the whole team, basically, they just don't have one. Valanciunas is a good center. Like, he's an above-average center in the league. If they're smart, he's going to eat on them. Like, he is going to feast in the paint.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, CJ, I feel like took a little bit of a decline this season in my perspective. His shooting was definitely not at the level we've seen it in the past. I don't know, man. I feel like the other thing is too, one of the most underrated parts of this is how good both of the coaches are for these teams. Like Willie Green is insanely underrated. And you can say the same thing for Dagnall, Mark Dagnall, of the coach of the Thunder. Like what he was
Yeah.
able to do with these young guys is just crazy. It doesn't really happen like this. Like you have your point guard is Josh Giddey. He is averaging the most rebounds on the team. That doesn't usually bode well for a squad, but they're just loaded, man. Jalen Williams. I mean, we were both on Jalen Williams.
Yep.
You know, there's going to be a lot of. I'm telling you right now, Bernie. There's going to be a lot of pats on the back for both of us throughout this stream. We have a lot of I think we called a lot of these young dudes. We were on it early with some of them. And the Thunder, man, like imagine if they had Chet. I'm not, you know me, I'm not the biggest Chet guy.
Yeah.
I do think he's going to be really, really talented. Like he is a talented kid. I can't help but be like super excited to see what this team would look like if he was on their squad. Like he is exactly the piece they don't have. It's pretty strange. I mean, I just thought they were farther away. So I don't know. What do you think about this one, Bernie? I mean, it's the specter of Zion looms over this game. Like it would be a really different story if he was there.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think it would be a totally different story if he was healthy. I mean, we can clearly think back to when he got hurt. Like that was when their momentum stopped officially because they were like what? They were the top 4 at one point, and then
they were in the 4 seed.
Then they ended up just like petering off into the 9 seed. And I just think that if they would have had him continuously playing, like even if he was gone for just a couple weeks and he was playing for the last month, I think this team would have made a big push to be in the spot that the Lakers with the Timberwolves are in right now. Especially the Timberwolves with the way that, that whole ordeal is going on. And we'll talk about them later on in the show. But I really do think that this is worrisome for the Pelicans just from a standpoint of this is another season once again where you're down your biggest star, especially after the chemistry that you built up throughout the whole playoffs, to then be down with and out with him again. And for me, like the Thunder, even though they don't have a big, and even though this team is young and they're upcoming, I think that this is a prove it year for them in terms of, is the project working? Is trading all the picks and all that stuff working for the Thunder? Because we know the Thunder, they're stingy. They won't pay any player an exorbitant amount of money unless your name was Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant. And I think they need to decide in the next couple of years what that's going to be, but luckily they don't have to decide right now. But they really need to think about that because I think that, if they can win this game and move into maybe getting the 8 seed in the West, I think that that's a huge momentum step forward for when Chet Holmgren comes back. And then depending on where they get a draft pick, depending on the trade that they made, we'll see what happens to their draft picks. I haven't really paid attention to where the positioning would be for them, but they could add some pretty solid pieces that are like in the middle of the draft. If they do end up getting the 8 seed and they are ending up in that situation. I just think that this is a great thing for the Oklahoma City Thunder to finally let some of these young guys get that playoff experience that they need. That's kind of the one benefit that I see to this playing game, not to go out on a side tangent. This is kind of just a playoff atmosphere, playoff experience for a guy like Jalen Williams, a guy like Josh Giddey. Unfortunate that Chet Holmgren couldn't be in there, but Shea as well, Shea being the leader and the focal point of that team. This is huge opportunity for them. But like you said, I think it's going to be the Pelicans here. As much as I would love to have the Oklahoma City Thunder win this game, the issue is going to be just the experience and just the age of the players. We know the Thunder are a young and up-and-coming team, and we know the Pelicans have been here before in the playoffs. And so, I think that playoff experience matters. I think the next round for the Pelicans is going to be a bigger issue because I think what it does now is that it puts this pressure on them to exceed because apparently, according to sources, Zion Williamson won't be ready for the next round. Like if they end up getting in the first round, if they're ready. And so
he's not playing these playoffs. Yeah. I mean, there's just no way. There's no way he will.
Yeah. And so, with that being the case and that being said, I think the Pelicans will win, but I think they'll end up losing to, one of the 8 seeds, either the Timberwolves or the Lakers.
Yeah.
And I know that's controversial to say because we know the Timberwolves right now are in this huge spiral, but we'll get to them a little bit later. But I just think the Pelicans, without a superstar player that they have in Zion Williamson and a guy that was, putting up Shaq numbers earlier in the year, they're going to be hurting without him for the next couple rounds.
Yeah. I don't know. I've almost convinced myself the other way. Like I honestly think OKC is going to win this game. The more I think about it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, I might be the earliest adopter of the Shea as a superstar bandwagon. Like I've been screaming from the mountaintops, this kid is special for a couple years now. And out of all the people in the play-in game, barring the GOAT LeBron, let's get him out of there. But even LeBron, counting him, of this season, this calendar year basketball season, Shea is probably the best player in any of these play-in games. Like, would you disagree? Maybe AD. But AD. I would honestly still say Shea has been better this season than AD. Personally,
more consistent. That's for sure.
Definitely more consistent. Definitely on the court more. But he's also just been, the only thing that AD would, vehemently have in his favor is just high-end, super duper high-end defense, right?
Yeah.
But even then, Shea is an incredible defender himself. Like he's a really solid defender. So I don't know. I'm a firm believer in, do you have a superstar who is going to carry the load in these huge moments, right? And I would take Shea over Brandon Ingram without even thinking about it. To me, that's like a no-brainer, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think I've already convinced myself otherwise. I think OKC is going to win this one. I'm just happy to see Shea finally getting a chance to not waste his time. Like personally, that's for me. I don't know if that's everybody's sentiment. I'm just excited to see him in a big game finally.
Yeah, it definitely is exciting, and of course, I think that this is going to be a fun game when this happens. I'm excited to see this because I think it's just two young teams. Even though the Pelicans are a little bit older in some areas, obviously with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, it's still a great experience for some of the younger guys like your Alvarados, Trey Murphy, like all those guys to finally get some of that playoff experience that they're looking for. Let's move on to the other 9 to 10 seed across the pond, or I guess across the border. I don't know what isms I'm trying to say here, but the Raptors versus the Bulls. Let's go there because this game is going in Toronto. This one to me is what I would define as the battle of the mid.
The East is just both of them are like that.
Yeah, but this is just mid beyond mid if I'm keeping it real, because I just think the Raptors are in this particular like weird spot where they don't really have a superstar. They're deciding what to do. Nick Nurse is undeciding of like his future, and then of course you got the Chicago Bulls, who are also like in this predicament of Zach LaVine is unhappy once again in a place where it seemed it was set up perfectly for him. Lonzo Ball's hurt, may not even play basketball again, which makes me sad and makes my heart break. This team cannot stay healthy. This team had a promising future. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine seem to have beef with each other. Like it has turned into a tumultuous. It's turned into a tumultuous scene in Chicago for them. But just speaking on the game itself, Pete, and I'll let you go first since I'm doing a lot of talking right now. But Raptors and Bulls, what do you make of this? And is my assumption fair that it's the battle of the mid?
Yeah, these teams suck. I'm just gonna be straight up. These guys, this is the battle of the underachievers. I mean, these guys have talent. They just have no chemistry, both of them. And we haven't even gotten to the team out of all these play-in teams that have the least chemistry. But these guys are all in competition with one another.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of weird, like the flip side. Like the Bulls have a bad coach, in my opinion, and Toronto has a good coach who's not happy to be there, right? Like he just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So, I just am not sure. Like I think the Bulls have kind of turned it around chemistry-wise. Like once they got Pat Bev, weirdly enough, it really did seem like they started to kind of gel again a little bit. That's the only reason they're even in this spot. I was, thinking they should tank it out and just, we're not making the play-in game regardless, but they ended up getting up there and, here they are in the play-in game. So we'll see, but man, this one's really tough because I don't think either of these teams are going anywhere very fast. regardless of how this game goes. But I don't know, man. I'm just gonna go with talent and say Toronto wins. I think they have a better coach. I think they have just better talent as far as the vast majority of their players, I would say, are better in one way or the other than the guys on the Bulls. In that, there's a lot of people who would disagree with stuff like that. There's people who ride very hard for DeMar DeRozan. He's been, solid for many years. Not his best season he's coming off of here. Same with LaVine. I've always been very critical of LaVine.
Yeah.
I just don't see it in big games, man. Like he's got to be your third option as far as I'm concerned. Like if you're asking much more than a third option from LaVine, you are looking in the wrong place for something. And then you got guys like Vucevic. Like Vucevic, he's just not it. He's also part of the worst trade other than the Rudy Gobert trade in recent NBA history. So yeah, I'll take Toronto, but this game, and I would honestly, I'll let you get on Chicago and Toronto, but we really should just lump the Atlanta-Miami game in with this because I think both of these games suck. I think all these teams are just straight trash, and they're like in different bad spots for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go quick with this Raptors one, and I'll move on to the Heat and Hawks because I think we'll lump them together, like you said. The Raptors, they have the better coach. They have a team that's more cohesive, and I agree with you in the sentiment that, yeah, I think this team is probably going to win because of that cohesiveness. Because the Bulls, to me, like, I think the chemistry was there at the beginning last year. A lot of people expected this team to win the finals. They expected them to get to the finals. They expected them to make a huge jump from where they were just a year before the year ago, which was kind of like a mid, right? Just a team that was like, they have some good pieces, but what are they really? To me, like the thing that frustrates me the most about the Bulls is, again, and I love Zach LaVine. He's from this area, so I'm going to root for him every time. But it seems to me like every time he's unhappy with the situation or unhappy with anything that goes on in his basketball career, it just, he takes it out on everybody, and then he ends up getting traded. And eventually, Zach LaVine, it has to fall on you to say, like, okay, what's the best situation for me? Excuse me, and what's the best situation for the team? Because, like you said, like Zach LaVine has to be a number one option, number two option on the team for this thing to work out. And it's clearly showing you that he has been so inconsistent this year because he'll have games where it's like, wow, this dude is an absolute all-star caliber type player. And then I'll have games where it's kind of just like, why was he like 9 for 21, 9 for 25, with like 20 points and, didn't really make an impact on the other stats. And that to me is kind of the thing that we need to see a little bit more from Zach LaVine. And maybe it just kind of goes to show that maybe he's just like a number two guy. And that's kind of what he is in general. Maybe we'll have to talk about that a little bit later. Stream off season stuff. But I do get frustrated with the Zach LaVine kind of conversation that a lot of Chicago Bulls fans want to have about him. Because I just think that, again, he's a great player, but man, does it suck when he just can't get it going for a team that's really struggling because they don't have Lonzo Ball because he's always hurt. It sucks. He's always hurt. And the team that those two guys, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, had beef at one point. And so I want to make sure like I'm sure they have situated that out, but I just think that it's always going to be there lingering, just thinking about it, because if they don't succeed, that stuff is going to rear its ugly head.
Yeah. This team, again, not going anywhere fast. It's just more a matter of like, I mean, this team is kind of where the Knicks were last season. Like LaVine is kind of guard Randall in the sense that his game really comes and goes with his attitude. Like he's very, very dependent upon where his mind is at for his confidence on the court. And if that's not there, it really is not there. And then it affects the whole team. And then everybody gets dragged down with it, right? Because you can't, you're gonna follow in the steps of your best player or whoever is supposed to be your best player.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot of people who would say DeRozan is their best player. He probably is. I mean, generally speaking, definitely all time is the best player on that team. But He's like 35. Like, he also doesn't play defense. He also only shoots mid-range jumpers. Like, they don't have a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not all that different than what Toronto is in either. They don't really have a superstar, or, you would have to even question, like, who's the biggest star even in this game? Who would you say it is, Bernie? I would argue this is crazy. I'm not saying he's the best player in this game.
Don't say Scotty Barnes.
It might be Scotty Barnes. Like, he might be, like, right now, like, the person who... I don't even think it's true. I'm just saying it might be the case. It's probably Siakam. He's probably the best player in this game, but he's had a god-awful second half of the season from where he started. So, yeah, I don't like it for either of them.
Yeah, this is just mid. Let's move on to the Heat Hawks. I can go first on this one. This one is also a battle of the mid. I think, obviously the Hawks, with the way that things have been going from them, we'll obviously talk about the story later on in our news segment, talking about Trae Young potentially getting moved on from Atlanta, and that would be a very interesting thing to talk about. So we will talk about that, like I said, later on in the show. But Miami Heat, again, not their best year. A team that a couple years ago was one of the better teams in the NBA. Got to the Eastern Conference Final, made the championship in the bubble. Man, does this team just it just is aging, not gracefully. And the Duncan Robinson contract is looking worse and worse day by day. And again, I know that, he's limited due to, his athleticism and things like that. But man, when he's not even shooting the ball well, so you can keep him on the court, that is the bigger issue to me for this Miami Heat team. I think this is going to come down to, honestly, who can, stop the other person from scoring. And, I think the Miami Heat have that in the bag. But to keep the facade and the gimmick of me being a Hawks supporter, I'm going to go with the Hawks winning this one.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
I'm going to go with the Hawks winning this one because in Quinn Snyder we trust. But
one thing nobody could ever say about you, Bernie, is that you're not loyal. I will
exactly.
that is just the truest of true.
Yeah. Loyal to a fault for some of these really
with this one
teams.
With this Atlanta pick, this is loyal to a fault. This is where I got to step in and say there is no shot Atlanta wins this game. There's no way.
Yeah. It's a tough one because the Hawks, obviously, Quinn Snyder can't get any momentum with this team going just because of how late he was brought into the situation.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll talk about the Trae Young stuff because I do think it's interesting to talk about the shoot around incident that happened with him and Nate McMillan. But, I think the Hawks are in this particular situation where a couple years ago they were in the Eastern Conference Final. I think they need to find a way to reclaim some of that magic back, and I just think the way that they need to do it, let's save it. We'll save it for the news. But just in terms of this team, they have Hunter, Young, Bogdanovich. Like this team really should be all right. Like to me, like this team should be where the Brooklyn Nets are at. If we're being realistic, like this,
they have better talent, yeah.
And the fact that they're not there just kind of goes to show you, like, the chemistry, like you said before, in the other teams, it's just not there. There's no chemistry with the other guys. Trae Young is a good player, but he can be toxic at a lot of times. It's hard to root for them because like I said, I like their makeup of the team, but at the same time, man, is it ugly to watch some of their possessions that they play. They obviously brought in DeJounte Murray to be kind of like another guard for them. That is looking like it's not a great trade. Depending on what happens, maybe they decide to build around DeJounte and trade Trae Young.
I wouldn't be shocked by that.
But I'm going to go with the Hawks here just because I think maybe they can score a little bit more. And of course, the Miami Heat are just an aging team, and I just think that this is going to be one of those games where maybe the young legs of the Hawks can win against the Miami Heat. But yeah, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I hate this game. I think both of these teams are abominable. They're like I said, it so rudely interrupted you in the middle of your Atlanta defense. I don't think there's a 10% chance Atlanta wins this game. They have absolutely zero chemistry. They don't like each other. I mean, that's part of the same, point right there. Like, they clearly do not like each other. I said it, I think, a third into the season, and you took great offense to my call that this team had the worst chemistry in the league. Again, I feel very vindicated by that take. Like, you can tell they just do not get along with one another. Like, there is not I don't think it's a stretch to say, much akin to my earlier comparison of Randall and Levine being, the forward guard version of each other. I mean, are we in a universe where Trae is maybe the guard version of Rudy Gobert? Like, is that crazy? He doesn't play defense. He doesn't do anything if he doesn't have the ball, okay? Very similar to Rudy, it's just he's the offensive version of it, right? He can't be put on anybody that isn't like a direct match to his body type and size. And even then, if it's not the exact scenario that Trae needs to be in, it doesn't really lead to anything good, much akin to Rudy Gobert on defense, right? And it also seems like he rubs many of his teammates the wrong way consistently. I'm kind of sick of hearing, and this isn't a shot at you, I hear it all the time. I'm just sick of hearing about their Eastern Conference Finals run. Like, to me, that is one of the flukiest playoff runs we've seen in recent history. I would actually say it's funny. The two in the last 10 years, I would say, are the most fluky, are relatively recent, and they have like a direct connection to one another. Trae in Atlanta, Luka in Dallas last year, going to the Western Conference Finals. Those were circumstantial trips at best, in my opinion. They weren't the best teams in their one of the two best teams in either of their conference. They just happened to get good matchups and other teams falling apart at the wrong time. I mean, we could say whatever we want about Atlanta making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. If Ben Simmons wasn't Ben Simmons, they wouldn't have won that series. It's just a fact. Like, if he was even 50% better than what Ben Simmons is and didn't have like the equivalent of the biggest like pants pooping we've ever seen on a, that big of a stage in basketball, they would have won. Philly was better. Yeah, Philly was better easily. They could have benched Ben and they probably would have won that series. Like, that's crazy to me. Beyond even that, Quinn Snyder's a good coach. He's had all of like a month and a half to do anything. In the way he schemes his teams, like, there's no way they run the sets he wants to run yet. Like, you just haven't had enough time together with him as their coach.
Yeah.
I hated that hiring in the sense that, like, just Quinn Snyder is not the type of guy that just slots immediately in and lifts everybody up. That's not really the type of coach he is. He's more of like a technical guy, right? Like, he is going to
long term.
Yeah, he's a builder, a guy who is going to put your team in the best position to win from a schematic standpoint. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's drawing up plays and running sets. It's not the Ty Lue effect or the Darvin Ham of like, this is a glue guy that we're going to put in there to lift an already good locker room up to the next level. That is not going to work with this team, and they didn't go that direction. When it comes down to it, Miami has way more experience in big games, winning games that they shouldn't have won, but in a way that wasn't necessarily as fluky as Atlanta. And again, I'm going to stick by it. I think it's always important to have the best player in a series. I think they have the best player by a pretty wide margin. I would say Jimmy Butler is better than anybody on Atlanta. There would be a lot of people who would push back with Trae. I'm sorry, you cannot be the worst defender in the NBA basically every season of your career and not really improve on the other side dramatically and be one of the 15 best players in the league. To me, it's just not, that's not how it works. You don't win games like that. So, I don't know. I hate this game. I hate these teams. Miami is going to win, and then whoever has to play Miami is going to sweat a lot, but they're probably going to beat Miami because they're not good either. They're really not good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let us know, everybody, in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of these 3 playing games so far? We talked about most of them except for the Lakers Timberwolves. Let us know what you guys think about the Eastern Conference playing game. Are you excited about that game? Or if you are a fan of these teams, how are you feeling about your teams at this moment? Are you feeling confident? Are you not feeling it? Let us know in the comment section down below. All right, Pete. This one, to me, of course, we can talk about for days on end because obviously this fan base is rabid, they're rambunctious, and it seems like it's a soap opera every day after a Lakers game has been played. Lakers versus Timberwolves in the final playing game. This one has some huge ramifications, not because of I think the Lakers per se, but it's more about the Timberwolves and kind of the capitulation that happened in the final game of the season. Uh, Rudy Gobert suspended after punching a teammate. I've heard some people try to defend this. I think Skip Bayless is one of those defenders of it. I'm gonna have to say, like, you can't defend that. It's a very it's just a very tense situation that's going on in Minnesota. You know, McDaniels broke his hand by punching the wall. Amari Stoudemire 2.0.
Yeah, unfortunate.
You know, and then of course you have Kyle Anderson, who got into the beef with Rudy Gobert. You know, you have Ant, who is a young, impressionable player that will see this. Karl-Anthony Towns not really being a strong leader. The Timberwolves are a huge mess, and I don't know. I think they'll make it to the 8th seed, but I don't know if this team is going to survive another season. And they banked the future on Rudy Gobert pairing up with Karl-Anthony Towns, and, you know, traded all those picks that they did and made Danny Ainge look like a huge genius after this whole situation. Pete, to me, this is not a story of the Lakers versus the Timberwolves, but really, like, what is the Timberwolves' future? Like, to me, like, that's the more kind of eye-opening question that needs to be asked. Because I think for the Lakers, we know they're going to probably win. We know they're going to get to the 7th seed and play the Grizzlies. But I don't know if the Timberwolves can recover from this whole ordeal that they've been dealt with by Rudy Gobert. I think it's tough.
This one's interesting. I feel like I have a much more moderate take on this than most people do. Like, I don't mean to just bring up the other punching incident of the year. Like, we've talked about it to death, the Draymond Jordan Poole situation. But, like, there's people who are comparing this as if it's apples to apples, but that's really not the case. Like, that's not the same thing. Like, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for Rudy Gobert. What he did was wrong, obviously. You shouldn't do that in any circumstance. But I do think, like, they were clearly both very upset with one another, and it led to the situation that it led to. Rudy, you know, losing his cool and punching him. I think what this really speaks to the most is a lack of leadership on this team. And really, most unfortunate part is, like, I feel like throughout the last fourth of this season, Minnesota's been kind of good. Like, they've honestly kind of fixed a lot of their problems. Yeah. Not all the way, but they've gotten much closer. Like, the addition of Mike Conley really changed the complexion of this team as far as how they use Rudy Gobert. I talked about this all season. Why do they not run any pick and roll with this guy? Like, for seasons on end, he's been one of the better pick and roll bigs in the league. And people don't like his offense, but he's good at that. Like, that is his skill set. And they didn't run it because they did not have a point guard who was capable of running it to the extent they needed it. Once they added Mike Conley, it changed. Like, he started playing better. Whatever people will say about Rudy, he was better. He wasn't worth what he was worth. It's the worst trade probably of all time. I'm not debating that. But this really screams like the team is in a pressure cooker. It was the biggest game of their season. And honestly, they pulled it out of the fire. Shouts out my guy, Leon Edwards, Rocky. I don't know if you know who that is, UFC fighter. But, like, they pulled it out of the fire. They won that game regardless. I would say their biggest problem is losing McDaniels. He's literally one of the 15 best defenders in the NBA already. That is such a loss for them, especially against the Lakers. I mean, it basically losing him gives them no chance against the Lakers, in my opinion. But if they had him, I honestly think they could have still been, you know, not an easy out, but they would have put up some fight. Because, dude, I'm a huge Ant guy. Like, I actually saw not the leadership off the court that you'd like to see from Ant, because if you go watch that clip, Ant is sitting on the far end of the bench, just kind of like doing his own thing, and he like sees it and he clearly gets upset, but he's not a leader. Like, that's not what he's doing in that way. But on the court playing basketball, put the team on his back. He won. They won that game in large part to him stepping up to the moment and showing that he's got it. If this team was smart, they would do everything they can to just build around Ant. Just do everything you can. I would trade Cat tomorrow for as many assets I could to get back out of that Rudy Gobert hole you've dug yourself as possible, and just try and make it work with Rudy. Like, honestly, they can't sell low on him based on what they did. So you got to ride it out. Get McDaniels healthy. McDaniels is so underrated. It blows my mind how underrated he is. There's only one other dude I think that's as underrated as him, especially on defense in the Western Conference, and he plays for the other team, and it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
It's tough though, man. I kind of feel bad for Minnesota because they've had such a tumultuous season. It's really none of their fault, any of the members of the team per se. It's more they got new ownership, a new general manager, and they wanted to make a swing for the fences, and they made an awful choice, and it put the team in a much worse situation. Imagine if this team still had Vanderbilt. Imagine if this team had healthy McDaniels, but they still had gotten off of D'Lo in the way they did. Like, this team would be a legit threat if you just change a couple things from the last 6 months of their transactions with other teams. But yeah, there's no way the Lakers don't win this game. Like, I'm more interested to see how far you think the Lakers are going to make it. They're the team I'm the most, like, I can't lie. I am insanely unsure about what the Lakers are going to do. I have no clue. You know me, I'm not afraid of a hot take. I'm not afraid of, staking a claim on somebody. I'm to the point with the Lakers where I'm just excited to see what happens. I just want to watch it. Just as a fan, they could either win the championship or lose shockingly tonight. I wouldn't be that shocked either way, really. I do think they're going to win tonight, though.
Yeah, I think the Lakers win easily. I think that without Rudy Gobert, I think the Timberwolves are just a little bit weaker, and of course, like you said, the depth is not there. But
unfortunately, Gobert, this is like literally his best matchup. That. Like, they needed him for AD. Like, it's pretty unfortunate.
Exactly. And, I think that the good thing for the Lakers right now is that they're also riding a momentum wave, after, a lot of a tumultuous season as well with Anthony Davis hurt and LeBron James hurt. A lot of people thought that the Lakers were done for. They were going to lose and, be out of the play-in. And, they were the 11th seed at one point. But the Lakers pulled it back a little bit. I think Austin Reeves has kind of shown you that he is that guy. Again, another dude that they got to think about the offseason. Again, to me, the Lakers, it's more about that offseason stuff. What are you going to do?
Caruso 2.0?
They might Caruso him. I'm worried.
I get strong Caruso vibes out of this one, Bernie. I can't lie. Underrated by front office, fan favorite, chemistry glue guy who just keeps getting better alongside LeBron. And let's not pay him the extra $10 million we're going to need to sign him. He's going to get like 50, 60 mil, something like that, 4 years. There is a legit shot they don't do it. This is a Lakers thing to do. Let somebody like him walk.
Exactly. And that's just going to frustrate me because, again, he's been playing very well. He was the guy that held the fort down and Anthony Davis and LeBron James were hurt. Like, to me, like, this team, it's being held together by Scotch tape at the current moment because of the fact that you have no idea if Jeanie Buss is going to be willing to pay, if the Laker front office thinks what they think about their players. But, they did what they did. They brought in D'Lo as kind of like that scoring guard. I feel like D'Lo should probably be coming off the bench. I can't remember if he's coming off the bench or not for them. But again, a guy that can come off the bench, get some scoring done for you, and then you bring back LeBron back in to be that like first unit guy. But I think, like you said, we're going to wait until we talk about the whole playoffs before we talk anything about the Lakers. But I agree with you. I think the Lakers win this game. And again, it's a soap opera every time the Lakers play. So I'm looking forward to that they're winning the next championship or that that the world ends and LeBron needs to go and Jeanie Buss needs to get fired and other things like that.
Yeah, we'll see about that. All right, Bernie, I'll be RB.
Okay.
Good sec.
So let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of this Laker Timberwolves? We'd love to know what you guys think because, again, this is going to be one of those matchups that we're going to find out whether or not the Lakers can continue this run that they're in right now, the current form of great wins and things like that, or are they going to be a team that falls apart? But let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about the LA Lakers versus Timberwolves matchup? And as we kind of wait for Pete, we're going to go into a little bit of the news and rumors. Just one thing here before we get going. Let's see here. We'll talk about this just because I think this will be a little bit of a quick news. Because I don't think Pete's going to be very long gone that long. We'll talk about this. The NBA sets record for total attendance, capacity percentage, and sellouts in 2023. The NBA has set new records in total and averages attendance. The league has recorded 791 sellouts this year, up from the previous season of 760 during the 18-19 season. The games were also filled at all-time high capacity of 97%. The league registered in attendance a total of 22,234,502 this season. It was the first time that teams collectively averaged over 18,000 fans per game. This is great news for the NBA, and it's kind of showing you that basketball is a growing popular sport. I know that football will always reign supreme. It's kind of one of those sports that will always do it. I think baseball is more of a social sport, so you could see why a lot of people go to that. But the fact that the NBA has gained more fans and there's more sellouts is a good thing for the NBA. Hoping for the Sonics to come back so we can be part of that percentage as well. Because I just think that right now the NBA is in a great place. I think that it's doing really well. And with this new in-season tournament, I'm curious to see how it does in person. And so I'm looking forward to going to actually one of those games, hopefully next season, and really finding out if it's worth the hype and the price of admission. But yeah, I think that this is great news for the NBA. I think the more in-fan experience. I know that they're going with the VR virtual reality route and other things like that, but nothing beats an in-person experience of going to the game. You know, the food, the atmosphere. I just think it's all perfect. And I just am excited for when they finally do it here in Seattle because it's about time they do it.
But where would you put basketball in live? I mean, we're a little biased, obviously. Basketball is easily our favorite sport, both of us. But where would you rank it in terms of live sport? I think it's the best live sport. Like, to me, I have the most fun at basketball game. And that's beyond just being a bigger fan of basketball. But, like, it's much more, I'm going to use a word that people will be like, oh, sus. But it's more intimate. Like, it's a more intimate experience, you know? Like, you're closer to the players. You have a better clue of, like, all the, interactions of the guys. And, I mean, you could, of course, can sit in the nosebleeds. But what do you think, Bernie?
I think it's a tough one because I think all sports have their moments. I think basketball for me is probably number one. Just because in terms of the pace of play, what you can see on the court. If you're trying to be a little bit more social, I think that baseball is probably more going to be your thing.
Sure.
Just because, the time in between innings, time in between batters and pitches and other things like that. So I could see that being people's favorite. Football, I think it's kind of the same thing. I think with how long the games are, I think, you get a little bit more bang for your buck.
I think football's the worst one.
Depending on where you sit. I think it depends.
I think you have to base it on, like, for sure. I think all of them, it depends on where you sit. I just think, like, the average seat at a football game, you'd have a much better viewing experience on basically any TV nowadays than you would in most seats in a football stadium. I don't know. Kind of a weird side tangent, but I always think, like, if you go see a live basketball game, you go see, like, somebody like Giannis, for example, in person, it is hard not to want to go back. Like, you want to see that stuff again, see these guys in person, because, like, TV, it usually is a better viewing experience, but, like, there is something that is different about watching them in person, like the sheer athleticism and just, I don't know. We can get off this tangent. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, but it is, I don't know. Curious what people think about that. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of that? And of course, the NBA gaining so many more fans, more sellouts. I think this is a great thing for basketball, and it kind of goes to show you that, I think the NBA is ready for 2 new teams, and it's got to be one in Seattle for sure.
It's happening for sure.
But let's move on to the award show. Now that we're done with the play-in, we're going to move right into the awards because to me, this is the most divisive awards that I've ever seen before. Maybe there might be one before. Maybe the D Rose LeBron James one is pretty divisive, but for the most part, to me, this is just classic, just sports hot take media at its finest when it comes to this stuff. So I've decided to take a look at Hoops Hype as because they kind of do a situation here where they break it down for their voting and things like that. And I kind of want to do the same thing because I think it's going to be a lot tighter than I think a lot of people realize, especially for some of the awards. I know Pete is excited because one of his Knicks players is nominated for it, and I know that he's probably going to be rooting for him. But nevertheless, Pete, let's talk about the award show. And what better way to start out with the most valuable player? I think that this is the most divisive. This is the most strenuous. You know, this is putting people in a Twitter hellhole right now. People can't get off Twitter because of this stuff. People are sounding off day in and day out about Joel Embiid versus Jokic. And it seems to be nauseating to me, the way that they have.
It's disgusting.
The way that they're talking about it and the way that some people are putting it in a sort of fashion that they have been doing with who they think is the best player. And, you know, is this a biased award? And, you know, are the media going to be gatekeepers and things like that when it comes to this award? So I'll let you start. Who is your MVP and who is your second place voter or second place person?
All right, I'll say I think Joel Embiid is my MVP this season. All right. I have Giannis as number 2 personally. And that comes down to defense, which I don't think anybody cares about nowadays, but he's one of the best defenders in the NBA. He's honestly, he's the best defender out of all 3 of these guys, and Jokic being the 3rd guy. I would say by a pretty wide margin, especially in comparison to Jokic. Yeah, let me do a little rant here, a little soapbox, because I think this is so gross, man. Like, I think this whole MVP discussion has completely lost any sort of like appeal in terms of what it even means, right? Like, and it's funny because I actually think 76ers and Joel Embiid are part of the problem. Like, they're campaigning the last 2 years for him to win. Like, it has put this weird stigma on the award in terms of why people get it and how they go about garnering votes, right? Like, to me, I think it's so ludicrous that a front office, and I get why you would do it. You want to have somebody you can put on shirts and sell merchandise that the MVP is on your squad, all this, that, and the third, and you have to be loyal to your guy.
Yeah.
But your primary objective is not to get the MVP. Your primary objective is to win the freaking championship. It's to go win. When all you can do is talk about this one singular award, it really takes a lot of the, like, where is your actual focus even at this season? And again, you know, not to spoil my playoff predictions, like, it's again part of the reason why I just don't think this team has got a championship in them. Like, the mentality is always in the wrong direction at the worst possible moments for it.
Yeah.
They cannot get out of their own way. Like, they can't. He should win. I honestly think it's not as crazy divisive as it, like, it's not that divisive in terms of what actually was on the court. Jokic really kind of gave it up at the end of the season. Didn't really play that many of the final games. He clearly was not angling to win it again. That was not his objective. It was to get healthy into the playoffs and back it up in the playoffs, hopefully, right? I just don't understand why people are so sensitive if their guy that they root for doesn't win an award. Like, it doesn't do anything for you, the fan. You can't. Does that make any sense to you, Bernie, why people are like that? Like, why people are out in the streets arguing with each other over whether or not it's okay for the legacy of the NBA that Jokic, who hasn't won anything, wins 3 MVPs? Like, why? I feel like I care about basketball much more than the average person. But I can't lie to you. I don't care that much that I'm going to lose sleep over who wins the MVP. Like, it's nonsense. What do you think about that, Bernie? Like, what even is that?
it's a tribal thing. I think it's one of those things where people are deciding, whose team is going to win, whose team's going to do whatever. I just think that there's just this campaign for Joel Embiid, who they felt had a really good season last season. They felt like he got robbed, and there's been a lot of people that are trying to get Joel Embiid the award this year because he's playing really well. He's the league leading scorer. But at the same time, I think the frustration for me when it comes to this whole thing is the fact that, like you said, this is an award that is for the regular season, and it's about team success and things like that. I think we've gotten away from that a little bit with the way that Russell Westbrook and James Harden had their triple doubles and scored a lot of points. And I know that for at least the most part, James Harden was the number 1 seed for the Rockets, I believe, at one point.
Season, yeah.
And so, to me, like, that was justified. Like, again, I'm not saying that Jokic should win the MVP because he got first place or anything like that, but the fact that we're kind of sleeping on Giannis a little bit,
it's crazy,
is ridiculous because it's kind of that LeBron James effect in a sense, but worse. Just because at least LeBron, it's probably about the same. To be fair,
I think it's about the same.
A guy that is great offensively and defensively and is getting third place in the MVP voting. To 2 guys that, again, are really good players. They've done really well, but I'm gonna bring it up. Like, what have they really done in the postseason? I know that was a take that I believe JJ Redick had, and a lot of people got mad about that. But it's true in a sense that I'm not gonna use that against him. But like, that should not be the award that you should be battling for. And I know people are gonna be like, well, it leads to money and things like that, and that's perfect for Joel Embiid. That makes sense, but for everybody else, like, you're trying to win the championship. You're trying to battle it out to see who's going to be the number 1 team. And time in and time out, both the Nuggets and the 76ers bow out of the playoffs. And it's about time that these two teams get over the hump and make it to the NBA Finals.
And primary difference, like, the Nuggets aren't out there screaming from the mat. It doesn't seem. It's not as crazy as Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers with the Embiid stuff. Like, it's not like that. Like, it's more just if he happens to win. And the thing I think that's the silliest of all of it, Bernie, is just how selective the memory can be for these guys. And not just I'm not even referring to the players. I mean all the media, all the fans out there, and fighting each other and arguing over this stuff and losing sleep about it. Like, you can have this memory in one way where you remember Larry Bird winning 3 straight MVPs, right? We can look historically back at that and what that means to the league. Is he the only one that's ever done it?
Like 3 in a row?
Yeah. Wilt do it?
I'm not sure. I'll double check.
Okay, regardless, we can look at the historical connotation of Jokic winning 3 in a row. At the same time, have the selective memory not to look at how different the statistics of today's NBA are to those years. Like, it's selective memory to suit your agenda of, this is my guy and I ride for my guy. I'm going to look at this. I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to turn my eyes away from that side and look directly at the thing that directly benefits my argument only. And unfortunately, that's kind of the day and age we live in, of people doing that with pretty much anything. But for some reason in basketball, it is really latched on to this MVP award of, we are going to fight this battle for this person and not necessarily do anything to provide factual evidence against the other guys. We're only going to down on them just as, with as little evidence as possible, just, crap on these guys and build up our guy with the most selective evidence we can find. Right? Like, no matter how you look at it, Jokic had one of the craziest seasons from a center of all time. He definitely should have been in the conversation last year and the year before. he didn't win those by some fluke. He was incredibly good on a bad team and led them to a very successful record and made it to the playoffs, right? The same thing can be said about Embiid and Giannis, but especially using Embiid, like he's not. It's not that crazy that he didn't win. Like the last season, it's not that crazy that he didn't win. And if he hadn't won this year, it still wouldn't have been that crazy. Jokic's stats are not like significantly worse, and if anything, they're almost about the same. They just do different things on the court. It's just my guy scores more. My guy helps the team more. My guy does this more. My guy does that more. It's just so foolish, man. I'll get off the soapbox. We have so much to talk about. But I just think it's absolute lunacy how selective these people can be about what they want to talk about, what they don't want to talk about, what the legacy of Jokic winning 3 in a row means, what Embiid not winning 1 means, right? Like, we can be selective about him winning too many, but then we're going to be completely hypocritical and say, well, Embiid hasn't won any. It's like, why are you looking at it either way? It shouldn't matter. It should be the season that they played. It's 1 season of basketball. It's not a cumulative track record MVP award. It's a 1 season, the season you're in, regular season award. Talk about that season. Give it to the guy who deserves it the most based on how you feel. You don't need to... Just don't understand hating on people just for the sake of, this is my agenda. I don't know. We can move on. I feel like the old guy, but it's true. I stand by it. I think it's nonsense. Yeah. Honestly, I wish Embiid didn't get it just because of all the campaigning their team has done. It's gross.
Yeah.
In games.
And just to let everybody know that there was actually 2 other players along with
3.
There's 3 players. So you have Bill Russell, you have Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So two centers, and then for the most part it's been 2, 2, and 2. Like Larry Bird has won 3 in a row. You had Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan kind of back and forth. Tim Duncan won 2 in a row. Kevin Garnett won 1. Steve Nash won 2 in a row. Then you have guys like LeBron James who won 2 in a row. So there's been a lot of like 2 in a rows, but never there hasn't been a triple or like a 3-peat.
No modern 3 in a row.
Era. So that is a very interesting thing to look at. But with that being said, let us move on from the MVP award. I think it's going to be, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Joel Embiid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah,
Rookie of the year. Rookie of the year is a very interesting one, Pete, because I think it's interesting because I think that it's not going to, I think it's going to be, it should be a lot closer than it's going to be. I just think Paulo's going to get it because of the fact that, he's averaging 20 points a game, 6 rebounds and 3 assists on 42% shooting. But, man, I think Jalen Williams has to be in the conversation and has to get a lot more votes than he's probably going to get. He has been playing so well. I know that he only is averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. But, man, it is – I think that it should be a lot closer, and I think he should be definitely in the conversation. Again, is he going to win? Probably not. But I think he should be in the conversation because I think Jalen Williams is showing you that you don't have to be the most dominant guy on the team to make the most impact. And I know that Paulo is making an impact for the Orlando Magic because that's the role he's eventually going to have to play in the next couple of years. But I just think in terms of what he does for the team, and again, this kind of goes back to the MVP discussion, I think Jalen Williams does it all for the team. And, he can play a little bit of the 4. He can play a little bit of the 3. I just think that Jalen Williams deserves a little bit more recognition than I think he's probably going to get credit for.
I'm going to firm disagree with you on this one. Like, I think Jalen Williams is incredible, but here's my point, all right? I think you can give a lot of credit to a young player. That doesn't mean you need to give them this award and say they should win it. Like, this dude is clearly incredibly talented. He had easily the second best rookie season in totality of all these guys. That being said, it's not even, I don't even think it's close. Like, Paolo was doing it from day one. And there's a huge difference in the fact that Paolo is the number one option by a mile on his team. Jalen Williams isn't even the second option on his team. He's not even he might, for most of the season, he wasn't even the third option on his team. So you have to like give him a lot of credit for making his way up that chart in terms of where he is in the team and what he's expected to do. But that being said, the pressure, the level of what is being asked of Paolo from the minute he stepped into that organization, that is literally to me what this award is. Are you changing the direction of a franchise? Are you the guy from the minute you step in there that people thought you were going to be? Are you the future of the league? And to me, you can say both of them are the future of the league, but still recognize that Paolo has way more on his plate and has completely lived up to the expectations. Like he is, I don't know, of all these guys, to me, it's the most sure slam dunk. This dude's an all NBA player in a few seasons. Like I know Jalen Williams is incredible. We've talked about him all season. He's amazing. He can do a ton of stuff. He's so well-rounded. His efficiency is absurd for his age, but he's not being asked to do all the things that Paolo is. He's just not. And I don't know. This award is the only one where you have to buck some of the trends in terms of like what was your success as a team? What was your consistency in terms of like your averages? Like has to be like that weighs a little less because they are rookies. I don't know, man. To me, Paolo is a slam dunk for this one. He's been one of the best rookies I've seen in years. Like, without a doubt, one of the best rookies I've seen in years. So is Jalen, but it's just, I don't know. That's where our difference is a little bit on this. You can give the recognition without it needing to be reflected in a vote or an award, right? Like Walker Kessler. What about Walker Kessler? He's been incredible. He's been better than a guy that got 5 first rounds in return with him as well. Like that should count for something too, but he's not going to get votes either. Like he should still get some credit. Jaden Ivey was really good in the last little bit of the season. He shouldn't get any votes. And my final thing with this is these are all season awards, regular season, the entirety of the regular season. Paolo was doing it the entire time. Jalen Williams really only stepped into that role at a high level for the second half of the season. That has to matter. Yeah.
All I'm just saying is give my guy Jalen Williams a little more votes than
give him his credit. Give him his credit, but he shouldn't win this award. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna definitely be Paolo. I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We gotta look at guys like Jabari Smith and figure out what's going on with him, and other guys that were kind of in the top 5 because I think this was kind of
such a good draft class.
Yeah, and it just ended up being a blowaway win for Paolo in the end. Let's move on to the Defensive Player of the Year. Hoop Types has Jaren Jackson Jr., and I know that's going to give Pete a heart attack.
He's going to win. I'm full in on Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to win this award. Do you want me to just rant now, Bernie? You want me to just get it out of the way?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to push the agenda? What did I tell you in the mock drafts, pre-draft last season, Bernie? Not this coming into this year. What did I tell you? Evan freaking Mobley. This dude has got future Defensive Player of the Year written all over him. I said it wasn't out of the realm of possibility he could win it in his first season. But here we are in season 2. And honestly, I think he should win it. I think he's been the most impactful defender on the best defensive team. I'm almost positive. I should have double-checked this. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 3 points ahead in defensive points allowed or points allowed per game.
Yeah.
And the second best team. They have far and away the best defense in the league. And they do that with 2, I would argue, pretty subpar defenders as guards. Like, Garland is certainly not a good guard, like defensive guard. And Mitchell comes and goes, but that's not his focus. He's all on offense, right? Both of those dudes are. The one thing with this, where people would detract, is that they have Jared Allen, right? But the difference, and this is where I feel like I'm just going to be this guy. This is where I feel like I see a lot of people and hear a lot of people who just don't watch basketball talk about this kind of stuff as if just looking at box scores is everything that the game is about. Like, I don't really care that Jaren Jackson Jr. has more blocks and more stats, right? I don't really care about that. It's literally what is happening on the court. Evan Mobley guards every single position on the court effectively at the highest level. He is setting up all of his other players on his team to be in good positions because he's so versatile. He can guard literally from under the basket to the paint in like 3 steps. And he's doing it by making smart choices, knowing how to, position his body. Also, I think Jared Allen said it recently. One of the things that Evan Mobley is the most underrated for is his off-ball help defense. Like how he sets up players to put themselves in a bad position is the highest level in the NBA right now. Like it's maybe Drew Holiday, maybe guys like that are like, maybe a little more versatile. They're just not as big, so it doesn't translate as much. But Mobley is always in the right spot. He played more games. He played way more minutes. And the whole defense is built around what he does. And I don't know. Like, I think Jaren Jackson Jr.'s defense definitely took a slip when Steven Adams left. Like, was it bad? No. He was still one of the best defenders in the league. But the same can't be said about Mobley. It was just as good those games Jared Allen didn't play. So, I don't know. I might be a crazy person. I hope he gets some votes. I think he deserves to win it. You know me, Bernie. I'm all about versatility. I just like to see people who can guard all positions, do whatever is asked of them at a high level, and I think Mobley is definition of that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be a lot. This is probably going to be the closest race out of all of them, just because I think with the way that people feel about Jaren Jackson Jr., the way that people feel about Evan Mobley, and even Hoops Hype here has Brooke Lopez getting some votes.
Let me hold on. That is one of the stupidest things on planet Earth right now. It's second only to these people fighting about the Jokic and Embiid situation. How are you going to give it to a guy that's the third best defender on his freaking team? How are you going to do that? He's the third best defender on their team. Giannis is a better defender, and Drew Holiday. There's literally no question. If you don't watch basketball, you might think Brooke is the best statistically. You're wrong. Watch the game. Giannis guards everybody. Drew guards everybody. They put Brooke in a position to be a good defender. Even though he's gotten better, he's still benefited so greatly by having such good defenders next to him that it makes his life really easy on that side of the ball. I think that's so absurd. I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I just think at the end of the day, I think it's probably going to go to Jaren Jackson Jr. just because, like you said, the media and everybody does not have time to watch every single game in the NBA. Otherwise, I think they wouldn't be on TV and they'd be just watching every single type of basketball game that they can. And so with that being the case, I think the stats and the box numbers are what teams are going to look at, or what these award people are going to look at. And sadly, I think they're going to probably go with Jaren Jackson Jr. winning it, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than I think a lot of people think. I think it's probably going to be, if I had to guess, I would probably say that it'll be somewhere where it's like 26-25 Jaren Jackson Jr., where like Evan Mobley loses by like a point. Just because I think that the way that this league works, the way that the narratives that they want to push and other things like that, I could definitely see the media trying to push a narrative where it's saying like Jaren Jackson Jr. second best team in the West, or the second best team in the West. They're going to try to push that agenda to Kingdom Come. And so I just think that for me, I'm probably going to see Jaren Jackson Jr. winning this award, but does he deserve it? I would say no, just because I just think that Evan Mobley can do a lot more, like you said. But knowing this league, knowing the way that things work, I could definitely see them going in the other direction and going with Jaren Jackson Jr., who, again, is really good. And I think that we've talked about kind of how similar those two players are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Evan Mobley could be a better defensive player than Jaren Jackson Jr. But we'll
see.
I
think he already is. But, yeah, this award, I would say it's almost certainly going to go to Jaren Jackson Jr., and like you said, it's statistics. It's not, no. Not really many people take the eye test into consideration, like actually, and I don't ever want to come across like, the arbiter of basketball. Like I don't watch every single second of every game, but I do watch most teams. I try and watch very regularly. That's like what I do with my free time for the most part. And no, man, it's not even a question to me that like the Cavs were very consistently throughout the whole season the best defensive team. Like it was not the same for the Grizzlies. Like they definitely turned it on and definitely were a good defensive team, but yeah, I don't know. This is my Jokic and Embiid. It's Jaren Jackson and Evan Mobley. I'm guilty of I am guilty. I have lost sleep. I don't have a Twitter account, so I cannot be held liable for being in those Twitter battlefields.
Yeah, don't want to be in those Twitter battlefields.
Would literally never step foot into anything like it.
All right, let's move on to the Most Improved Player award. I think this one also could be a little bit of a interesting award. I think Hoops Hype has Lauri Markkanen in this award, but I think it's going to be Shai Gilgeous. I think the way that he has performed the season for the Thunder, I think Lauri will probably get the second.
I think he's going to win it, but it should be Shai.
Oh, you think Lauri's going to win it?
I actually do think Lauri's going to win it because I think this is another very narrative-driven award, and I think people are going to go off of the assumption of, oh, we thought he was trash this time last year, and now he's all NBA, right? Mm-hmm. Borderline at least. Shai, we knew he was good, but now look at him. He's averaging 31 points per game. Like, this one is really tough because it almost like this is actually, I would argue this is the closest race. This is probably the least important award of all of these, but this is like an insanely close race where your assumption about what this vague award even means, it just kind of says what you think it means. Like it's like when Ja won last year. He won last year, right? Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, he did.
It's kind of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation where like, not as superstar or star going to superstar, but pretty much the same thing. Like you have a guy who's definitely very talented taking the big leap to superstardom. Lauri is kind of the mid player turning into a star, which I think is more narratively like a juicy thing for, people giving this award. It should be Shai, though. Like, anybody that goes from anything like under... What was he at last year? I think he averaged like 23 or 24 points a game.
Yeah.
Go to 31. That is an insane leap in production. The one thing, too, again, whether people like it or not, you got to have some team success in some of this stuff. And it's not like they were that big of a difference, but one team made the playoffs and another didn't. Like, to me, it's that simple. One team made it, the other didn't. They're both very improved from where they were last year. Yeah, I don't know. He shouldn't win. I'm not going to get on my biased high horse quite yet. Why is Brunson not getting any discussion in this award? Am I crazy to think that like he should at least get mentioned?
You get mentioned. I think another guy that you can mention too is Bridges. I know that he got
100%.
I know he got traded a little bit late, and I think his role definitely improved. But you could see his role improving with the Suns even when they didn't trade for Kevin Durant. And then as soon as he went to the Nets, he was completely the next guy, just for the Nets sake this year. Where he's
I think he would have won.
So many multiple 40-point games. I just think that he is another guy, too, that should be on this list. This list has Nick Claxton and Immanuel Quickley. I think Immanuel Quickley will be in discussion for another award, which we'll talk about. Yeah. But I think that the conversation really should be, you can remove those two guys and put our two guys in there with Bridges and Brunson as two guys that definitely improved the team, definitely improved their stats and situation. But at the end of the day, I think that Shai Gilgeous should probably win this award because I think that he's improved that much and he's really carried this Thunder team to a play-in game. Where Lauri Markkanen, I think, if Lauri Markkanen would have carried the same way that Alexander did, Gilgeous-Alexander, then I think that you could probably say that Lauri Markkanen should have won, but he didn't. And so to me, I think that this is to me, the clear case of apples to apples here, and I think that Shea Gilgeous should get the nod over Lauri Markkanen for this season.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that one, but I really do think Lauri's going to win it. I think the trash to, or the one man's trash is another's treasure type of thing. I think that matters big with this award.
The narrative,
yeah, that narrative is huge for the most improved.
Yeah, because I thought Shea Gilgeous should have won last year for most improved, but
I didn't think Josh should have won. Like he was clearly going in the direction he was going, right? Like that being said, if he won it last year, again, I think that's why Shea should win this year. They've already set the precedent that that's what the award is. Give it to the guy who leaped into superstardom, took the league by storm.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that award. Let us know in the comment section down below. Who do you guys think is the most improved player? Sixth man of the year. Hoops Hype has Immanuel Quickley.
We know who wins this one.
Here's some other awards. We got Malcolm Brogdon in there, Bobby Portis, Larry Nance Jr., Norman Powell, and Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves would be a good shout.
Austin Reeves, yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to be Immanuel Quickley because of the way that him and the rest of the Knicks have really turned around the season. Because there was a point where the Knicks were kind of in this limbo state of like, whoa, what's going to happen to them? But they ended up coming out of that. Immanuel Quickley is definitely part of that whole situation. And I think it's probably going to be Quickley. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3.4 assists on 45% shooting from the field and 37% from three. That is a significant improvement from the previous year, and I think he's going to win the award for Sixth Man of the Year.
Yeah, this one's weird. I honestly think Brogdon's going to win. I mean, maybe I'm crazy.
I think you're crazy.
Actually, I think he's going to win. I think Quickley should win, but I think Brogdon's going to win. And the only reason I say that is, again, I think it's narrative type stuff. And I think in terms of what these media members look at in terms of who gets votes for what, like the addition of Brogdon to a really good, obviously great Celtics team from last season. And, like we have discussed again many times throughout the season, like he is exactly what the Celtics were missing in that playoff run last year. So, a trustworthy ball handling guard who can take some of the pressure off guys like Marcus Smart. Just think narratively again, like it is more Brogdon's award from that sentiment. However, in terms of like what to me a sixth man is, like I think of guys like Jamal Crawford, right?
Yeah.
Like that's Quickley. Quickley is an absolute heater off the bench. But more importantly, and I think that this is something where people would, and I'm curious to hear what you think about this, Bernie. Like sixth man to me, people think of it as a best bench player award, which in theory, that's kind of what the name implies. But that's not really what a sixth man is. A sixth man is the guy who's next up in any set of circumstances, right? Like that goes for when your starting guy at that position is out, he's your starter, right? And there really has not been anybody better in that capacity this season than Quickley has. Like he has been incredibly good in the 20 or so games he's started for the Knicks this year. A few of them getting up in like the high 30s. I mean, you think of like, this is the primary reason I hate to just go with one game, but at overtime game against the Celtics, Bernie, I mean, Quickley stole that game from the Celtics almost single-handedly for the Knicks. He was incredibly good. The Celtics had no answer for him. One of the better defensive teams in the league had no answer for this kid. One thing that people are just not going to talk about with Quickley, even though they should, again, it's some of it is the eye test a little bit. It's his defense. His defense is so unbelievably underrated for how good he is. It's really hard to believe that people don't talk about it more. But yeah, I think Quickley should win. I think Brogdon will win. Sounds like you're on the other side of that. You think Quickley's going to win, and do you think he should win?
He'll probably win, and he probably should win. I just think that his change of pace, he kind of reminds me of like what Tyrese Maxey was the year prior.
Yeah,
kind of like that rising guard that could do a lot of good things. making a lot of great plays. I just think that he kind of does the same kind of Tyrese Maxey type of things that is important for the Knicks moving forward. Whatever happens to their roster, whatever happens to like trades or things like that. Because I think he just adds a different dynamic to this team than what they're used to, right? Because this team offensively is actually better than they are defensively, which is a first for me, knowing a Tom Thibodeau type team. So I think that his offense allows the Knicks to play with a much different speed, a much different pace, and yeah, I mean, I just think that they do deserve to win. He does deserve to win Sixth Man of the Year.
Yeah, I also think too, like, last thing on this board is like, how do you change the tempo of a game when you enter it and, fulfill your role as the sixth man? And I don't think really anybody embodies that as much as Quickley. Like,
yeah,
he really changes games entirely for the Knicks, especially the nights when Randall is not in the right spot or RJ is off or whatever it is, right? Which unfortunately for the Knicks, that happens kind of frequently. One of those two dudes is probably going to have an off night. And on the bright side, you have this guy who can come in and change the tempo of the game, get people locked in, and just they can follow his energy. I think that's important. I don't necessarily get that same feeling with Brogdon, but no, like this is another one of those. This is probably closer in reality than what the MVP is at this point.
Yeah.
In terms of what the award is.
Yeah. And let's kind of do one final award, and then we can maybe talk about the all NBA teams on a different day.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Coach of the Year.
I think this one's stupid easy.
Who you got?
It's got to be Mike. Got to be Mike Brown.
Mike Brown.
Has to be. It has to be. I mean, the only two people I would even consider for this award otherwise would be, I would say, and this one people will disagree with, but I honestly think Willie Green deserves some credit for, just navigating the situation with the Pelicans, constantly not having one of your two best players or both of them, and still managing to get to the playoffs after all of it. I don't think he's in second place. I'd actually put, what's his name, Mark Daigneault, the OKC coach. I think he deserves a lot of credit for getting that team where it is. I've said it a couple times. To have no big, literally the entire season, trading away your only big that was healthy, Mike Muscala, and still making it to the playoffs with just a bunch of young guys. It's really impressive. He's clearly a good coach. But yeah, I think this is Mike Brown. It should be unanimous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Mike Brown is going to win Coach of the Year. I just think the way that he has elevated this Kings team. Again, I was not the biggest Kings guy coming into the season. I thought that they would kind of peter off because, again, I'm a Tyrese Haliburton guy, and I really didn't see much in him. But Sabonis, obviously, along with Fox and some of the younger guys, Kevon Huerter, and Murray, and I think who else they have on that team that would be really good. Davion Mitchell, like a lot of the guys that they have on their team, just for, otherwise we could just name their whole roster. They surprised a lot of people, including myself, of we're back in the playoffs, and they didn't just barely make the playoffs. This team dominated. The way that I thought Bickerstaff should have won it, I can't remember. Did he win it last year?
No. Who won last? Here, I'll look it up while you keep going.
Yeah, it might have been Udoka, maybe MA. Which is kind of funny to think about now. When we talk about the news and rumors later. But Mike Brown definitely carried this team to I wouldn't say carry, but he definitely guided this team to a third place finish in the West. And we know
it was Monty. Sorry, it was Monty Williams. Yeah, they had that crazy 64 win record.
Oh yeah. True. So fair enough. But again, he's a coach that, ended probably one of the longest sports playoff droughts in North America with the way that they got into third place. Again, third place isn't just like you did okay for what you have, but no, this is like, hey, we're making a statement and the Kings are here for real. I think another guy that should get a vote though, I think Darvin Ham. Give Ham some love.
Shot.
Give Ham some. I think he should get more love than a guy like Will Hardy.
I really don't think so. I think it's like you get credit. I think you should get credit, but
I'm not saying
I don't know.
I'm not saying you should get like all the votes, but at least give him one.
Yeah, but that maybe I don't know, man. Some of the rotations, some of the coaching stuff, I just don't. He definitely did a good job with the circumstances he was in. But I could name 5 guys before I picked him, at least 5. Like I would say, you'd say he did a better job than like Tibbs did this year.
Yeah, Tibbs is fraudulent. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, stop, Bernie. I'm not like I have my feelings about Tibbs, but he did an incredible job this year. What about I mean, you know how I feel about this guy, but what about Doc Rivers? I mean, an insane amount of pressure on that team to pull it out. What about Joe Maz? Well, Joe Mazzulla. He should be. I'd pick him above Darvin Ham for sure.
Definitely, Mazzulla for sure.
I said Darvin. You said Darwin, and then I said Darwin. It's not his name, isn't it? Isn't it Darvin?
Darvin Ham.
Darvin. All right. Yeah. I
mean, Mazzulla gets a vote. But yeah, I mean, again, just some credit. Just some credit for.
They have Tibbs on Hoops Hype at 3rd.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty surprising. I didn't think I think he should be up there, but did just win. So.
Yeah, but we'll see. And then kind of the final award. I mean, we don't really know too much, but we could just say it. Let's go with the Executive of the Year.
Executive of the Year.
Executive of the Year.
Tim Connolly from the Timberwolves.
They got Danny Ainge. They got Monty McNair, Leon Rose, Kobe Altman, Sam Presti, Rob Pelinka, and David Griffin.
Definitely can't be David Griffin. I mean, it can't be him. Somebody voted for Pelinka in that award?
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Give it to Pelinka, baby.
Oh my God, that's insanity. It's Ainge and it's not even close.
It's Ainge for the high robbery of what happened.
Yeah, it's Ainge by a landslide. I mean, he's completely changed what that team situation was in, so many quick, dramatic ways.
Mm-hmm.
Also put them in an incredible spot for the future if they do it right, which and this is kind of the thing with Ainge. Like, we'll see long term how it pans out, but I mean, Walker Kessler, to me, Bernie, I don't know if you agree. I mean, he's got future all-star written all over him as far as what a center is.
Solid, yeah.
He's so good. He's so underrated. He's already one of the better centers in the league. Like, as far as just a true center, he's one of the best in the league already. He's better than Rudy Gobert is, already. And he managed to get Lauri Markkanen as well. Turned him into an all-NBA type player. Will Hardy, one of the better coaches in the league already as well. It's Ainge. I'm dumbfounded by the fact that somebody voted for Pelinka. Whoever voted for Pelinka at Hoops Hype needs to relocate to another sport. That's wild.
To a different thing. But yeah, that is going to do it for our kind of award show. Let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? Again, we're going to do the all NBA stuff a little bit later, just when we have that information out and we can kind of compare the two and see if we agree or disagree with our list. But let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of all the NBA awards that were voted on here today by Hoops Hype? Did you guys agree with the Hoops Hype, or did you agree with Pete and I on our takes on these awards? Let us know in the comment section.
Still laughing. I'm broken. I've been broken by Hoops Hype.
Hoops Hype breaking you?
That's like you drive a minivan full of kids into a river. And then you happen to cut the seatbelt and save 3 of the 4 kids, and they're like, "You're a hero. You did it." But it's like you drove it into the river. You killed that one kid. You did that.
Oh my God.
It's the equivalent. This isn't the basketball GM equivalent. Oh my God, that's crazy. That person needs to. Their cards are revoked. Every one of them. Whatever card it was, it's all been revoked. Pelinka.
You're taking away the key fob.
Oh my God. I've honestly been broken by that. I can't stop giggling. I'm dead. Oh. All right. Here, hold on. Let me go quick restroom again before we jump back into playoffs.
Okay. All right. And while Pete uses
I need to finish laughing too.
Okay. Oh my God. While Pete collects himself together, we're gonna kind of read some other new stuff. Really quick, I think another one that we can talk about is this Kyrie Irving declines to speak for the media for the exit interview. I think this just kind of goes to show you that this was a complete fail by the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban needs to have his ownership revoked or whatever they need to look at and just figure out what they're doing in Dallas, because they basically traded away a bunch of good assets for Kyrie Irving, who we don't even know if he's going to stay with this team. Like, my gut feeling is that he's not going to stay. My gut feeling is that he feels like a Laker to me. That might be the LeBron James bias in me, but I could see LeBron James convincing him to join up in LA, because I just don't see a guy like Kyrie Irving wanting to play for Dallas any longer. Again, Luka is a great talented player, but the situation that's surrounding the team in terms of players around Luka and Kyrie Irving are just not it. I think Kyrie Irving wants to play for a winner. He wants to play for a team that's really considering going for the NBA Finals. And the fact that he is not playing for that type of team right now, and he's playing for a team that's super average at best, can be frustrating. And I definitely see him not wanting to join up and play anywhere near Dallas. Because again, I think Mark Cuban, he won that one championship. He got to another NBA Finals in 2011, he won the championship in 2011. He got there in 2006. And I just don't think that kind of accumulates to him, warranting him being like one of the best owners in the NBA or even one of the best GMs, because he's made some really terrible mistakes. And I think that this is one of them for me, was trading for Kyrie Irving, not because I don't think Kyrie Irving deserves to get traded for. It's more the fact that for Kyrie Irving, does he want to stay in Dallas? Probably not. And so I got this as probably being one of the worst trades, one of the worst trades in the NBA this season. Obviously, the Rudy Gobert one takes the cake, but we know that Kyrie Irving is definitely not going to stay in Dallas.
I have heard some rumors that it's not that crazy that he stays. I mean, does it change anything for them? That's really the problem. Like, it really doesn't. But I just think now Dallas is so desperate, Bernie. They're going to have to offer him a mega contract. They're basically where the Lakers would be if they had traded everything to get him. Like if that trade had gone through, that's what Dallas is in now. They have to re-sign him, like based on just sheer assets and who they could even go get, who would want to come play there. Their best hope at signing anybody is to keep Kyrie on the team and hope that the cult of Kyrie comes to the rescue. Like, he has so much respect from other players in the league, rightfully so. Like, on the court, he's incredible, but they're so screwed, man. They are so beyond screwed, that team. Yeah. I honestly would bet he stays because he's going to get by far the most money from them of any other team.
Yeah. We'll see, man. I have a gut feeling that he's going to leave, and I think LeBron is making that first call. He's going to hit him with the "you up" text.
Like, do you think that the Lakers have changed their mind in terms of, because that was the holdup of not getting him in the first place in LA, was the contract that he wanted? Like, do you think the Lakers' position on that has changed? Are you giving GM of the Year Rob Pelinka that type of credit?
I'm not going to give him that type of credit, but I think it's whatever LeBron wants, LeBron will get.
I don't think so.
And I know that LeBron has asked for a lot of things and they haven't delivered, but I think this is the one piece, because they've kind of like they made their bed with LeBron in terms of where they're going to go with their team, because they've obviously given up this whole decade of basketball for LeBron James. And so I just think that they're going to appease what they need from him to get Kyrie Irving. I don't see them not trying to sign Kyrie Irving and him not ending up in a Laker uniform. I think it's in the destiny. I see it in the cards.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that was the plan. Maybe Pelinka really is just 1,000 IQ GM on this. Maybe it was. Yeah. Maybe he really truly does deserve it. Like, if that happens, they get him for a relatively okay deal. I honestly think any team that signs him to a max is brain dead. Like, just you're out of your mind to sign him to a max at this point. Somebody is going to. Mm-hmm. I think it's Dallas, but maybe that was the thing with LA. Maybe they just didn't want to give up the assets and then sign him to it. Maybe it was a matter of we don't want to do both, like give up assets and sign the max. Let's just wait and do one of the two.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But we shall see. But let's move on to the playoff bracket. I think it's that time.
Playoffs.
We are officially here in playoff bracket mode. We've kind of made our winners and losers of the playing games. We've taken a short intermission with the award show, and we're back here now to talk about who is going to move on to the next round, what team, all the stuff like that. I think it's going to be a very fun. I think it's going to be a fun experience for everybody talking about this bracket. So, with that being said, let me see if I can get a more accurate kind of NBA Finals bracket looking thing, so that way people can look at it and not be confused. Let me see here if I can find it. Let's see here. Sorry, everybody. Let me just find an NBA bracket. And that way we can kind of look and see. Maybe this is it. No, this is not it. Maybe we can do it this way. Okay. I think this is it. This is the most accurate one. Okay. All right, Pete. Let's look at it. 2023 bracket. It's for the most part, I think that we can safely assume that this is how it's going to end up. We got Milwaukee versus Atlanta in the first round, unless you had it differently.
No. Well, I picked the Heat to win. No, wait. Yeah,
but they'd be the 7 seeds.
Who did I have? I forgot now already. We just did that in the beginning.
It was the Raptors and the Bulls.
Oh, I think the Raptors are going to make it instead of the Atlanta. I think that's fine. We can go with Atlanta though. It doesn't. I think either one is going to get swept.
Yeah, this is definitely a gentleman's sweep, right? I mean, the Bucks are just too good.
This is a sweep.
Yeah,
they're not giving that one win. This is a clean sweep, no matter how it goes with Milwaukee. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like Atlanta defensively can't hold to them. Toronto offensively can't score with them. It's going to be tough for any of those two teams to make a dent, especially in a 7-game series. Like they are not making any type of dent like that against the Milwaukee team. And Giannis has been in full form. Jrue Holiday's in full form. So like you said, Milwaukee in a sweep, not even close. 4 games.
Yeah, I think it's easy. Whoever you think is going to make that 8th seed, it's not close.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Boston Celtics Miami Heat. Pete, who you got in that?
I like what you're doing here. Let's skip over the good ones for the end. I think that's the right way to do it. Boston for sure. I've been curious to ask you this, Bernie. There's a lot of Boston fans that are kind of nervous about the old Miami matchup. Like, do you feel that way still? Like, I know there's history. There's recent history. No, not at all.
No, I think that team is too old. Their shooters are not shooting very well, and I just think that Bam Adebayo hasn't developed offensively the way that I think the Heat would like him to.
He's overrated.
And so I think for me, Boston clearly wins that game. I think with the addition of Brogdon, you have a healthy Williams. I think that this is going to be a gentleman's sweep or a 6-game series.
Yeah, this is one of my more like sneaky sweeps. I think Boston's gonna dismantle Miami. Like last year I think that was a little fluky to make it as close as it was.
Yeah,
and it literally, I mean, they got it almost as close as you possibly could to winning on that Jimmy shot, but they're just. I think Boston is so much more mature than they've been in those other series that these two teams have played against each other. Really, like.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is pretty healthy right now. Like when it comes down to it, they're the healthiest they've probably been all season. I think Boston's got this one in the bag.
Yeah. Moving on to the Philadelphia Brooklyn game. Brooklyn, Philly. Who you got? and telling me that it's not Brooklyn in 4?
I think Philly is going to win, but I think that this is going to be closer than people think it is. I think Brooklyn can win this series? I really don't, but I see there's a very clear future in which I see like Brooklyn kind of scares Philly, and then a lot of baggage is brought up to the surface for this Philadelphia team. I feel like they've really like ignored it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's where I look and listen to stuff and read articles, but it seems like there is not very much discussion about the tremendous amount of baggage that Philadelphia has coming into these playoffs. Like they have so much pressure on them.
Yeah.
So much. Now Embiid is going to win the MVP probably. You have that part of it too now, like that same discussion of like Jokic hasn't won anything, we're going to give him the MVP. Well, you better hope Embiid steps up in the playoffs and can stay healthy through, 3 series at least. But that being said, I really think there's something wrong with Harden's foot. Like, I think his Achilles is really not 100%. So there's something about the way that Brooklyn has so many like switchable defenders that I think could give Philly some issues on certain nights. And honestly, you could tell me if I'm crazy, Bernie. I think Jacque Vaughn is a better coach than Doc Rivers. And you know how I feel about Doc. I'm one of the most anti-Doc people out there. But I really do think Jacque Vaughn is a better coach. And Jacque Vaughn, somebody we didn't talk about for Coach of the Year, he should get some votes too. Like I would pick him over other guys for sure. Considering what they went through.
Exactly. I think they did go through a lot. So I will give you that sense of the Brooklyn. They obviously had a completely different team at the first part of the season. They fired Nash. Jacque Vaughn was brought in to help with the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving transition. That obviously was an absolute fail from the organization standpoint, not really Jacque Vaughn's fault. But I agree with you. I think Philadelphia wins, but I think it's going to be a 6-7 game series.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just think for me, the problem with Philadelphia is I don't know if Joel Embiid is going to be healthy for the playoffs. There's always something that happens where he just gets hurt, or something along that nature always seems to occur for Joel Embiid in the playoffs. And so I'm a little worried that it might happen to like James Harden, like you said, with his foot. Tyrese Maxey might get hurt. Like, I just feel like there's something about the 76ers that seems very unlucky. And I just think that, like, looking at the whole situation at hand, I think that might happen either in this round or the next round. And, I think Philadelphia is a solid team. But, I just think they're going to struggle in the next round. But for this round, at least, I have Philadelphia winning. I think Brooklyn, yes, I know Bridge is scoring 40-plus point games in a lot of his games so far this season. But the issue with Brooklyn is they're without some of their star players. Some of their players got hurt. And obviously when you don't have Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving or even a healthy Ben Simmons, I think it's a tough ask for Brooklyn. So I got this being a 6-game series in Brooklyn's favor.
You think Brooklyn's going to win?
Or sorry, Philadelphia.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah, I think one thing too with Philly that is a little underrepresented in the media coverage about this series too is like I don't think they're as deep as people think they are. Am I crazy?
Korkmaz?
I mean, Korkmaz is trash, if we're being frank. But even then, I cannot believe the amount of talk about the other McDaniels. They have Jalen McDaniels on Philly. He is so much worse than his brother. And I'm not just trying to be rude to him, but it's people talk about him like he's, a serious like option on this team. Like he belonged on the Hornets. He was a Hornets player. He wasn't a conference finals type of guy. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And are we just going to seriously, and I'm not just trying to go hard on Doc, are we going to forget how many playoff series this dude has lost? Are we going to forget how many playoff series James Harden has lost? Are we going to pretend like all that stuff has not happened? for literally the last 10 years, 15 years. I don't understand that type of stuff. People are kind of just penciling them in to make it pretty far. I will believe it when I see it with these guys, especially with the Doc and James Harden part of it. Mm-hmm. I hope for Embiid. I am an Embiid fan. Like, I want to see him succeed. It's just in this team's current capacity, they better hope they make it to the conference finals. Like, they better hope they do. Because if they don't, there's going to be some serious repercussions. Like, as far as whatever Harden is planning on doing, we've heard all those weird Houston rumors of him wanting to go back there. Then also Embiid. Like, you got to think this dude wants to win. He seems to want to win more than most guys do.
Yeah.
So got to start wondering what's going to happen. Are they going to stick with Doc Rivers again if he can't get it done? I'm interested to see. A lot of pressure for these guys. I think they'll win, but people will be very shaken, I think, after this Brooklyn series.
Yeah, for sure. Cleveland, New York. I think this one is also a tough one because I think this is two of your favorite teams, with some players on this team, on both teams that you love very much. But Pete, you're gonna have to pick one, man. What team is winning and why?
Oh man, I got to put a caveat on this. My only caveat is Randall. Like, is he healthy? If he comes back game one, he's close to what he was. I honestly think the Knicks can win this series. I know there's going to be a lot of people who say I'm a homer, but it's a good matchup for the Knicks. The Knicks have played Cleveland really, really well this season. I think they took the
it's 3-1 in the series, I think, for the season.
Yeah. New York took it in all those games, especially that fourth one that just happened recently. That felt like a playoff game. They already basically knew they were going to be playing each other in this exact matchup, the 4-5. Mm-hmm. And they were taking it very seriously. It was not a Denver-Philly type scenario, where they, one team just kind of threw in the towel on that one. Like, the biggest problem is if Randall is compromised, if that ankle is bothering him, I just don't think the Knicks are going to have the offense to get over Cleveland's defense. Like, that's really the biggest problem for either of the teams. Is Randall's foot is the biggest question mark. So I'm going to say, because that Randall ankle sprain, it did look pretty serious when it happened. Like, Randall is, whatever you think about him, he is a tough dude. Like, he is not taking games off for fun. Like, that is not his character from everything I've seen. I would venture to bet his foot will not be 100% when he comes back, his ankle. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take Cleveland, but I think that this game is at minimum 6 games. Or this series is 6 games minimum. Like, I would actually, to bet any of these to go 7, I would easily bet this one in either conference to go 7.
Yeah. This is definitely going 7 games. And I think that whoever has the home court advantage is going to win the game, and so I got to go Cleveland here. I just think defensively they have all the assets that can definitely take a New York team out of their play. I think the one thing that favors the Knicks is that offensively, I think they play a little bit faster than them. I can't remember if that in terms of pace, what it is, but what I do think that Cleveland has that New York doesn't, are a lot of more scoring options. And I just think that that's going to favor the Cavaliers a lot more than it would the Knicks. I know the Knicks have Quickly, they have RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, if he's healthy, can score a lot of buckets. But I just think that offensively, the guard play of Cleveland is a little bit better than the guard play in New York. And so I have Cleveland winning this series in the 7-game series.
Yeah. This is one of those weird ones where I think it's very obvious both ways how it goes, like how it matches up. Like, the starting lineup for Cleveland is definitely better. Like, it just is. The bench is way better for New York, which that does matter. It doesn't matter as much in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The way that these guys have played off the bench, like, it's not any small thing to have 3 guys that can come off the bench and give you 20 or 30 points, for the Knicks. Like, that's pretty absurd to have in your back pocket. So This one, obviously I'm the most conflicted of all these series. I got my Brunson jersey sitting right here next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want it to be competitive. That's literally, I would be shocked if it wasn't competitive at this point of the season. All I can ask as a New York Knicks fan, give us 6-7 games and just make it super close. It's really unfortunate. I think this is like one of the worst matchups the Knicks could have run up into in terms of like just how competitive it's going to be the whole way through.
Yeah.
We'll see, man. I would have rather played Philly, to be straight up with you.
Yeah, I think that would have been a better matchup for you to get the Philly matchup. But Cleveland,
Which
I
is
think
funny, killed us in the regular season, but I do think we're a better matchup with Philly than Cleveland.
Yeah, I just think in terms of just you guys play a little bit more. Can't remember. Are you guys in the same conference? No, I don't believe so. I have to double check on that. But nevertheless,
No, we're not. We're not. We're in the Atlantic, and they're in the Central.
Yeah. Nevertheless, I think Cleveland wins the series, so we'll see how it goes on from there. But let's move on to the Western Conference. Denver and Minnesota. Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a no-brainer. This is a sweep and a half. Denver is just going to run circles around this team. I think it's great playoff experience for some of those Minnesota players. But I think the real question is going to come in the offseason for Minnesota and what they do to rebuild their future. To me, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. The funny part, Bernie, is if McDaniels hadn't gotten hurt, if Naz Reid hadn't gotten hurt, I would have been tempted not to take Minnesota, but said like this could be like the sleeper of all sleepers in this first round. But those two dudes out, I don't think there's any chance they can beat Denver. This one's cooked. Like, the funny part is like this is not a terrible matchup for a lot of the guys on Minnesota. It's just they lack any sort of They just needed McDaniels. I guess it's that simple. Just having that level of defender where they could switch around and hold down Aaron Gordon, put him on Jokic sometimes, just cut off those passing lanes Jokic uses all the time. Yeah, they're cooked without him.
Yeah. Moving on to the Memphis Lakers. This is an interesting one because I know that you want to know my take on this one.
Can I go first? Because I think your mind's made up.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to influence you one way or the other. This one is really strange to me because I think the Steven Adams loss is like might be the most impactful missing role player from any of the teams.
Yeah.
Like he is really does a lot for them. Not just like it again, that he's like a huge like the box score doesn't really tell you everything about Steven Adams. Like he is just a chemistry guy and what he gets the guys around him, how he gets them to play. I actually think that this is a pretty terrible matchup for Memphis. I don't think it's a great matchup for them. And I honestly think the Lakers are going to win that matchup.
Wow.
I don't think the Lakers deserve it, but I think I think they could beat Memphis. I'll say it. I think they'd be in a really tough spot against either of their next teams that they would go up, Sacramento or Golden State, depending on who wins that one. The Memphis matchup is pretty okay for them. Like, whatever you think about Jaren, and this is part of the reason I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. should win Defensive Player of the Year. Like he's gonna get cooked by Anthony Davis. Like I think he's gonna do okay relatively, but if Anthony Davis can stay healthy, he's gonna take him out of the game on offense. That's for sure. Also, like, can't slow Anthony Davis down if he's healthy and playing full on like 100%. He just can't do that. Not that anybody really can. But yeah, again, just really bad matchup for Memphis. What do you think, Bernie? I feel like you're pretty in on the Lakers right now.
It's got to be Lakers. I think the Lakers win this matchup. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are in shambles at the current moment just because I know Ja Morant came back and everything is fine and dandy, but something about AD, something about LeBron, something about Austin Reeves, the combination of the three, seems to make this team a little bit more enticing than the Memphis Grizzlies. I know, like you said, without Steven Adams, it's going to be a tough veteran loss of leadership. And my question is now going to be, for me, like the biggest thing for Memphis is, will Dillon Brooks shoot them out of a game? Because that is kind of the thing that if you're a Lakers fan, you're excited for. You're chopping at the bits for it because Dillon Brooks is more worried about looking like Andre 3000 from Outkast than playing this game because obviously he sat out the last game and he strained out his hair to look like Andre 3000.
Dillon Brooks has like real Seto Kaiba vibes.
Yeah, but
that energy to him.
He does, and then he just has like randomness. He's just very random, and I feel like that randomness is going to cost the Memphis Grizzlies a playoff series. And I just think that this is going to be it. I know that the Lakers, like collectively, I think the Memphis Grizzlies have a little bit of a better roster than them, but I just think
definitely do.
The star player aspect of it, the Lakers have it, and so to me, I got the Lakers winning this game. I would say that this would be a 6-game series. It has to be. It has to be for them to win.
I think it has to be too. I would argue it's more a question of, is Dillon Brooks going to shoot them out of multiple games? Like, one is not a question to me. Like, I'd bet everything I own that he shoots them out of one game in this series. It's more all of them. And last thing for the Lakers, I will not stop until people start to give this dude the credit he deserves. A guy, Jared Vanderbilt, dude. He's one of the better defenders in the NBA. He just is. There was somebody in this chat, I don't remember who it was, gave me a lot of guff talking about Vanderbilt when he got traded. Crazy. He's so legit. We're already talking about picking up his option next year, extending his contract too. He is a very, very high-end defender, and that's part of the reason the Lakers season completely changed. People will give the credit to, the D-Los of the world. That is in small part. It was the two biggest things for this Lakers team was getting rid of Westbrook, by far was number one. Number two was Vanderbilt's defense. He made them much closer to the 2020 bubble team that won the championship, which is a defensive-focused squad that has great offensive options, but they are a defensive-oriented team because of guys like Vanderbilt on the squad. So I think the Lakers win that one.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Phoenix Suns Clippers game. Phoenix, LA. I think this is a sweep. I got Phoenix sweeping.
All right, Bernie, we have our first true disagreement.
It's got to be, man. Like this Clippers team is nothing without Paul George. Kawhi Leonard, I don't even know if he's going to be on the court tonight or not, or whenever they play.
He is absolutely going to play. This is not a sweep. I don't know. I'm tempted to take the Clippers, Bernie. I'm tempted. I won't do it because they don't have Paul George. I still think Phoenix is going to win this game. But I can't understand the Phoenix
hype train.
Can't understand it. I mean, I do. It's obvious. It's Kevin Durant is the hype train, right? It's Kevin Durant with Devin Booker and CP3. But there's a lot of things that people aren't taking into consideration. One, this team has zero depth. They have one of the worst benches of all these teams that are in the playoffs, like without a doubt, right? Secondly, you have Devin Booker. This is basically the same squad minus their best role players that got absolutely demolished by Luka Doncic last Western Conference, or not the Western Conference Finals, but you know what I'm talking about, the second round.
I got you.
CP3 is significantly worse than he was this time last season. Devin Booker and KD and CP3 have played like a total of 9 games together, 8 games. And I think they're undefeated in those games. But that being said, it's the end of the regular season. They were playing teams that did not want to win. They were trying to stay up there, keep climbing into the higher ranks of these seedings. So I definitely am not going to say like a bullet LA wins this, but I think it's very foolish to just discount the Clippers. Like, Ty Lue is a really solid coach. Whatever you think about, the role players on the Clippers, they are certainly better than the role players on Phoenix. I'm sorry to say. They just are. And people have really like fallen off of Kawhi. Kawhi is so much better than people think he is. It's absurd. I'm honestly sick of the Kawhi slander of all players in the league right now. He is still, if he's on the court, which I get it, it's not all that frequent. When he is, he's one of the 10 best players in the league, without a doubt, on both sides of the ball. And if you have anybody that could give KD any sort of trouble, it's Kawhi Leonard. That is literally the guy that was designed in a lab with freak arms and freak hands who can guard anybody. It's that dude. So I don't know, man. I think this is like a 6-7 gamer. Really do. I think Phoenix wins, but I'm saying 6-7 on this one as well.
6-7. Okay. I got the sweep there, but let's move on to the what feels like the fate of the world is in the Sacramento Kings' hands here. Sacramento versus Golden State. The popular pick has been so far to pick the Golden State Warriors just because of the playoff experience. The the Sacramento team is a little bit too young, not a lot of playoff experience. Pete, which direction are you going in for this team?
I got the Kings. I got the Kings in this one. I cannot forget recent history, and that is that god-awful Golden State road record. They're going to be playing most of these games in Sacramento. I know Draymond already said that that's what they were looking for because it's a shorter trip. That's foolish. I mean, you should have worried about winning more games in the regular season. Wiggins literally hasn't played a minute for them yet since he's been back, right? I don't think he played any of those games. He's literally just going to jump in the first game of the playoffs and just be back to normal. That's not how basketball works at this level. It's just nobody. Yeah. The best players can't really do that. Just jump in and it's just like nothing happened, you know? Let alone Wiggins. Say what you will. He deserves a lot of credit for turning his career around, but he's not LeBron. It's not like he's going to come back and it's going to be second best player in the NBA Finals level Wiggins again. That's not happening. Like, it's just absurd. Klay has been much, much, much better. Klay has been very close to the guy he was. Yeah, I kind of don't understand it other than the fact that it's just purely past history being represented. You know what I mean? Like, it's just people giving the Warriors squatters rights in terms of, like, they've been here so many times, they might as well just win this one. But I don't think they can slow the Kings' offense down.
I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a tough game for them to win. Just for the
Kings?
fact... Yeah, I mean, the Warriors...
It'll be tough no matter what, that's for sure.
This is definitely going to be if the Kings are going to win this series, it either needs to be a 5-game series or a 7-game series, because it's going to be tough for the Kings to win, especially with how young they are, with how inexperienced they are, and Golden State, obviously, with the way that Curry can get hot, the way that the offense is set up for them. I think it's going to be a tough go around for the Sacramento Kings. You know, I don't want them to lose, but I can't ever count out Curry. I can't ever count out Draymond. I know that they're annoying. I know that they can bug the crap out of people, but one thing that they do well is win, and I gotta say that they're gonna probably win this game. They're gonna win this series. I hate to say it.
I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's, to me, Bernie, this is the funniest thing. Like, it cracks me up how many people are like, I'm going out on a limb here. You know, I'm taking the Warriors. It's like, you're not brave for taking the Warriors. Like, you're going to pick the most winning team in the last 7 years, 8 years. Like, that's not a risky pick to make. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. You're clearly not. You're just based on the history of it and the fact that they can turn it up. Yeah. It's hard not to want to take the Warriors, you know? I don't know, man. The Kings, they don't seem scared of the moment, really, at all. And I think that that's one of the things, like, in certain situations, I would think of, like, if I felt that about a team, that's like a huge like a glaring red mark of like, oh God, you're going into a team against a team that clearly thinks they can beat you. They think they can beat anybody because they've done it for so long.
Yeah.
If there's any sign of like mental weakness in a squad, that's where I get worried. But I don't really see that with the Kings. Like they don't seem like it's all hinging on, win or loss here. Like I don't know. I can't lie. This is definitely the most, other than the Knicks Cleveland, for obvious reasons. This is the one I'm the most excited to watch. I'll definitely be tuning into every one of these games. Yeah, I don't know. I think realistically, Bernie, here's my biggest thing. And let's actually, beyond just like history and talking about what might happen or what has happened in the past, for me, it's this simple. The Kings are far and away the best offense in the league. I really think people greatly overrate the Warriors' defense at this point in history. We're in the year 2023. Clay can't really guard people the way he used to. Whatever he's turned around his career, he certainly has. He's back to the way he was on offense for sure. Steph has greatly improved on defense, but he's still average around that, maybe a bit above average. Draymond had a great defensive season. I saw people saying he should win Defensive Player of the Year. Just don't see that. We know he thinks he should win. That's just actual information. And then you got guys like Jordan Poole, Dante DiVincenzo. Those guys can't guard they couldn't stop a wet paper towel. Like they're not doing nothing as far as this Kings team is concerned. De'Aaron Fox, these guys are going to just keep scoring the way they have. That's the thing with the Kings team, is if they were up against a bad, or not a bad, but a very good defensive team, that would be a bad matchup for them. Like the Lakers, I think, are legitimately a pretty bad matchup for the Kings too, because their defense is so good. But I don't think they can slow down Sabonis. I don't think they could slow down De'Aaron Fox. I think they're in trouble.
Yeah.
One way or the other, this is going to be an insanely high-scoring series.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a very intriguing matchup and definitely an interesting series to monitor and look at moving forward. And I just kind of brought up the Warriors stats here. Defensively, they are not very good, at least this season. And so I'm curious to see how they'll do moving forward. But let's kind of go back again. Let's move on to some of the matchups we have here. So we got the Milwaukee Bucks versus, do you have the Knicks winning it?
I pick Cleveland because I think Randall is compromised.
Yeah. So who you got in this game?
I think it's Milwaukee. Yep. I think Milwaukee wins that one. That's kind of the problem with the Cleveland Knicks series. Like, it's going to be a really fun series. It's going to be the most competitive series probably of all these series, but they're going to take so much out of each other that even if whoever makes it gets there, they're just going to be running into a buzzsaw. And they're probably going to be running into a rested buzzsaw in Milwaukee because I think, like we both said, they're probably going to sweep whoever they play. That's the really tough thing. And that's why you want the underrated one seed of all of them, I think Milwaukee's got this second series pretty much locked in however it goes. I will say, I think Cleveland has a much better chance against Milwaukee than the Knicks do. And that's purely matchup. That's the guys they have, the personnel. Like Mobley would pay good money to watch Mobley be guarding Giannis for a whole playoff series. I want to see that really bad. But I would rather the Knicks win. But yeah, I'm taking Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to be Milwaukee. Like, as much as I would love to have it be the Cleveland Cavaliers, I just think that seeding matters.
About the Knicks, Bernie? You wouldn't love it to be the Knicks? If the Knicks won and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, Bernie, could you imagine the pandemonium going on?
Oh, man. I can already see the New York fans in there. Just like
the disgust in your voice. I want nothing good for us, Bernie. I want nothing good for my boys.
Never anything good. But no, I think that if we're keeping it real, I think that it's definitely going to be Milwaukee in 4, 5, maybe just 5 games. Like, again, Cleveland's good, but offensively, I think the Milwaukee Bucks have a little bit more scoring, and so I'm going to go with Cleveland losing in that game. Not really else much to say other than I think Milwaukee is one of the best teams in the NBA at the current moment. Yeah. Then we got what we have. We have Philadelphia versus the Celtics. This is a gentleman's sweep. I don't expect the 76ers to be much of a threat. So I got the Celtics in 5 games. I think Tatum and Brown are going to go off for career highs in that series.
Wow. I like it. I'm about on the same page as you with that one. I mean, it's funny. I was so down on Philly earlier. I still don't think it's like brain dead easy that Boston just kills them. Like, Joel Embiid is different. And if Robert Williams is anything less than 100%, he's going to do damage to the Celtics, like serious damage to the Celtics. And even if Robert Williams is there, he's still going to do damage. It'll just be really ugly if Robert Williams is not full strength for that one. Yeah, I think Boston wins, but I'll say 5-6 for that one. Like, I don't think there's any way it's a clean sweep against Philly. They do have good players. I mean, they beyond just Embiid. It's not like they're deplete of anything. And Tyrese Maxey, one thing about him, he definitely can win a game or two in these playoffs for Philly. Like, I would not be shocked by some 40-point outburst from Maxey that wins a big game for them.
Yeah. Let me see here 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I think Philadelphia, they got to start rethinking their squad a little bit more moving forward, and that's going to be the interesting thing coming out of this playoff series. Like, as much as I think the 76ers are a solid team, I just think that with Harden's health, Joel Embiid's injury-prone history, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for them and for them to keep up with the Celtics. So I got that being a blowout.
Yeah. The wing defense is not great for Philly either.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next round. So we have Denver versus either Phoenix or LA. I think you picked LA. You picked the Clips.
No, I picked the Suns. I just said I picked the Suns just because Paul George is out. Like, if Paul George was healthy, I would be picking the Clippers. I'm being dead serious. I would pick it easy. However, without him, it's a really tough series for the Clippers. I still think they can go 6-7, but yeah, I'm taking Phoenix in that one.
Yeah. You're taking Phoenix in the Denver versus Phoenix series?
Oh, man. That's hard. That's so hard. No, I'd actually take Denver. I'll take Denver. I think they're more well-rounded, and honestly, there's nobody on Phoenix that can even remotely slow down Jokic. Like, I've flipped entirely on my DeAndre Ayton stock. I've sold it all throughout the course of this season. Been very unimpressed with him. Yeah, I just don't think they would be able to do much to stop him. And that's really Phoenix's biggest problem. Like, if there's anybody on the other team that Kevin Durant can't guard, they're pretty much screwed. Like, they really don't have defenders. Like, Josh Okogie's fine, but he's Josh Okogie, you know, like that ain't good enough. But yeah, I'll take Denver in that one. I think I'd be in the small minority of people who would do that, though.
No, I'll go Denver too. I think a lot of people
really. I think Phoenix is the favorite to make it to the Western Conference Finals or to the finals out of the West.
I've seen that. Man, I think Denver has enough, and I think that this is a prove year for Jokic, and so I want him to succeed. And so I'm going to have Phoenix winning this series just because Phoenix is solid, but like you said, the bench depth isn't there, so I don't know realistically if this, and I know that depth doesn't really matter in the playoffs because you're obviously only playing a 7-8 man rotation at times for those 7 games, but I think it's all about the role players for me. Can you get enough out of Jamal Murray? Can you get enough out of Aaron Gordon? Can you get enough out of Michael Porter Jr.? That's going to be the biggest thing. And they're gonna have to hope that they get a lot out of those guys.
And they're just, I mean, any of these teams, like, until Devin Booker proves otherwise, like, I will forever not think of him as a big game guy. Like, anytime I've seen him on the biggest stage, he crumbles, usually. from my perspective. That being said, they're going to have to do a lot of relying on Kevin Durant, and if Devin Booker doesn't have it, any other team can basically just throw their best defenders at Kevin Durant, just consistently keep throwing everything they can at just him, because CP3 is not even a threat anymore. I mean, he doesn't even shoot like those mid-range pull-ups he used to do. Like, he used to be automatic, especially the last few seasons in Philly. He was automatic with that mid-range jumper. He doesn't take it anymore. He just doesn't have his legs underneath him. So Phoenix better hope that Devin Booker brings it these playoffs. Maybe he will. Maybe just having Kevin Durant is the support he needs to get to that next level. But yeah, I'll take Denver.
Yeah,
Jokic. This is the Jokic turnaround season where he goes deep into the playoffs.
All right, let's move on to the next matchup. We have the LA Lakers versus either the Golden State Warriors or Sacramento Kings. You have the Kings winning this one. Who wins this matchup in a rematch of the 2000 and I believe 2 Western Conference Final, if I'm not mistaken? Very, very fun game back in the day. Is that game going to live up to the hype for UP in this season?
Well, I hope it doesn't live up to the 2002 playoffs, because that was atrocious for everybody involved. But again, I think the Lakers, I am not one of those people, one of my least favorite things in all of sports right now is the whole, like, the script, talk about, like, everything's going according to the script. I hate that stuff.
Is it going to the script?
I'm just going to say this. If there was a script, the Lakers' playoff seeding and their potential matchups in these playoff matchups are very beneficial to the Los Angeles Lakers, because I actually think they match up great against either of those teams, against the Warriors or the Kings. If it's the Kings, like I think it will be, and I hope it will be, that is a terrible matchup for the Kings. Really, really terrible. Like I said earlier when we were talking about that earlier matchup between them and the Warriors, just a good defensive team against the Kings is literally everything they don't want to see. And the size for the Lakers and the defensive switchability, versatility for them that's going to be a lot to overcome for the Kings, I would say. Especially like if they're healthy, like if AD is healthy, that's tough. That's really tough. I hate to do it, but I honestly think the Lakers are going to win that one too. I can't believe I feel that way. Oh, dude, give Pelinka the award. I'm done. I'm done. He deserves it, I guess. It's proven me wrong.
Give Darvin and Pelinka the awards.
Give Coach of the Year and GM of the Year. Both of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be the Lakers for sure. The only reason why I feel that confident is because I think this has a recipe for AD going on a historic run as a first option player. I think he needs to in order for this team to be successful. And so I definitely have the Lakers winning this game against the Golden State Warriors, even though the Golden State Warriors are presumably the favorites in that matchup. I just think the Lakers have a little bit more of what it takes for me personally to say that this team can go the distance. I think the thing that struggles for the Golden State Warriors is going to be the road record, and I think the Lakers can still win at home. I have a feeling that they can.
And you feel that way because you picked the Warriors. You think they can beat the Warriors?
Yeah. This is going to be LeBron James' greatest arc since the 2016 NBA Finals.
Oh my gosh, you're really going out on a limb on that. I like it. Yeah, this again, that's a bad matchup for the Warriors too. The lack of real true center on the Warriors, and I know they have Kevon Looney, but he's solid, but he's not Anthony Davis solid. Like, he's just not keeping up with AD. The size for the Lakers is really the difference. It's really my same assessment with the Kings and the Warriors. Either one of them, better hope it's not the Lakers. That's for sure.
Yeah. And let's kind of move on then to the conference finals. Then we have Milwaukee versus Boston, I believe. Pete, who you got in that one?
I gotta stick with my guns. I think it's Milwaukee. I'm sorry to say to you.
The B-Gen.
I think the Bucks are the best team in the NBA currently. And really, I think that this is Giannis's playoffs to lose of anybody. Like, he's got it all written in the cards. The one seed, I would argue the best team. They have the most continuity of pretty much all these teams, other than maybe the Warriors. Milwaukee really, I think they should win this one, but this will be an absolute bloodbath. Like, this will not be an easy series either way it shakes out. Like, this is going to come down to basically the last possession of the last game. Because the one thing, and this is Boston's biggest thing to hang their hat on, is I would argue that Milwaukee's biggest weakness is, again, its wing defense. And that is the biggest strength that Boston has, is their wings and their offense. So it's a tough matchup both ways you shake it, but I just think at the end of the day, they have the best player in the NBA. They have Giannis, and Giannis is just unstoppable in these moments. And I think if you look at anybody who has proven out of all these guys in all these series, other than, Steph Curry and LeBron, who does not fold under pressure, it is Giannis. I got to ride with Giannis on this one.
You're going with the Giannis. I will obviously go opposite. It's obvious.
You're letting that homer influence you. That's what's going on.
I know. I'm going Boston. I think Boston will win this in a 7-game series. I think it's going to come down to shot making at the end, and I think it's going to come down to the role players. And I think our role players, to some extent, have a little bit more versatility than the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I just think that with the better role players, with Brogdon kind of leading the charge, in terms of slowing down the offense, in terms of ball handling and not letting Marcus Smart take some shots that he will normally take. I definitely have them winning that game, and I have Boston winning that game in 7.
Yeah, that one, I can't lie. Other than the Cleveland New York series, I mean, that's probably my favorite, of all the playoffs, potentially that we could see, is Milwaukee, Boston. This, to me, maybe this is a spoiler for our Western Conference discussion, I think this is the true championship. These are the two best teams throughout the course of the season.
Yeah.
I think they have the best overall rosters of all the teams that are left. Yeah, man, this is kind of the championship to me. I think whoever wins this takes it all.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that this is going to be the matchup, and of course, it's going to be the Denver Nuggets versus the LA Lakers. Pete, what do you got in this matchup?
God, man. Oh, my God. It's so hard to pick. This is so hard to pick.
I think this is a repeat of the bubble, right? This would be a repeat of the bubble.
Yeah. This is so hard. God, man, I feel like I'm pretty certain I know who you're picking on this one. I think this is another Lakers pick for you. I would like it to be the Lakers, only for the LeBron part of it. God, man, I can't even pick on this one. This is so hard for me. There's not any clear matchup benefits really for either team.
Yeah.
I would say the coaching is in Denver's favor. I would take Malone over Darvin personally.
Over Darvin.
God, I don't know. I would say this series hinges on one dude, and it's not anybody you think it is. Who do you think I'm going to say, Bernie?
You're going to say Austin Reeves.
No, it's Jamal Murray. I think this hinges pretty heavily on Jamal Murray. If he can be Bubble Murray, we're really cooking with something. But even if we get 75% of that, we're really talking Denver, I think, has the best team if Jamal Murray is that guy in the West, that is. I'm going to pick Denver just because I think it's so absurd to think that the Lakers can go from play-in to the finals. I think that's a huge task to uphold, and really the biggest question mark for either of these teams is in the Lakers, and it's their health. That's number one with a bullet of both of these teams. What question marks would they have? It's the health of AD and LeBron. So I'm going to say Denver as my safer pick. But I would say if they both got there miraculously 100% full health, damn, I might take the Lakers. I don't want to do it though.
Uh,
For LeBron, I want to, but I don't really. They don't really deserve it, to be frank.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. It's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be the Denver Nuggets. As much as I was writing the Lakers, I just think that it's gonna come down to, I think the best player, and if you got Jokic versus AD,
Gotta take Jokic.
I'm gonna probably take Jokic, and so I'm gonna have it be the Denver Nuggets versus the Boston Celtics in the NBA.
Oh, dude, I feel like I'm already questioning myself, Bernie. I already have like things swirling around my brain.
Because I
Like,
picked them.
no. Just even since I said it out loud, like the Lakers, the experience is so much in the Lakers' favor.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just LeBron really skews it, but then you do have guys who won that championship a couple years ago in the bubble. Yeah, man, that one's so tough. It's almost like 50-50. Like I don't even feel really confident about Denver.
Yeah.
I'll switch. I'm gonna say the Lakers just to be different, but I don't know. I really don't know.
And who wins?
Yeah, like I said, I think the East is going to win this year. I think it's either Boston or Milwaukee, whoever gets out of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
But I like I said, I think Milwaukee wins over Boston. I think Milwaukee wins the championship. I think Giannis is going to truly assert himself at the top of the mountain. Like this is his season to be like, regardless of MVP, I'm the best guy in the league, all around. Best defensive player, best offensive player, the whole package. And, whatever people think about, Chris Middleton, the Jrue Holidays of the world, these other guys on Milwaukee, they are super duper solid. They all know exactly what their role is. And they are a problem for pretty much every team in whatever matchup they have. Because you have there's going to be the random Brook Lopez 30-point game. There's going to be the random Bobby Portis 30-point game. It is definitely going to happen. It's just the way their team is constructed. There's always going to be one of those dudes that has openings all night long. So maybe it's Grayson Allen. Who knows? Pat Connaughton. But yeah, I think Milwaukee wins. I feel pretty confident that they're going to be the champion, but I've been wrong before.
I mean, I'm going to go with Boston there. I just think that they're going to redeem themselves from last season. The question for me for Boston is going to be, are they going to miss Ime Udoka at any point? They probably will in a couple games. But I think overall, I think they'll be just fine with Missoula leading the charge. So it's a tough one, but I think I think that's kind of what I'm going with. I always was going to have Boston win it. I just think as a redeem from last season, they need to. This is probably their better team than they had last season. And I think with more experience and hopefully with the way that Tatum and Brown can manifest and lead these guys to a win, I just think that it's going to be in the Celtics' favor.
All right, let me ask you a question. So you've got Boston, I've got Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Let's talk just like one hypothetical. If there was one matchup that you would want to see the most in the playoffs, like a feasible matchup, who would it be?
Feasible?
Like of any team. It could be in the finals. It could be one from the East, one from the West. It could be in the Eastern Conference. Whatever you want to do. Who's your hypothetical? I would like to see that matchup the most.
I honestly would like to see Golden State and Cleveland. And kind of like
Golden State and Cleveland.
Yeah. I think that would be a very interesting matchup. I think that they are completely two different teams. It's a different Cavaliers team than what they've seen before. I just think that it would be fun to see like the next generation of Cleveland go against the old generation of Golden State that they had so many battles before. And so that would be my matchup that I would love to see.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What about yours? What's yours?
I mean, if I had my pick of anything, this is there. I have an agenda with this. I have an agenda usually with my picks. I would love to see Phoenix play the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I would love to see that. KD versus LeBron again. And, I mean, really, I wouldn't like it if the Phoenix Suns won. Then I would say it's my least favorite series of the playoffs. But just the idea of LeBron getting another one over on KD would be.
Oh, one sec, Pete. 1 second. Just my AirPods died, so the audio's not coming from trying to man, come on. Let's change device. We're gonna change it to speaker. All right, talk now.
Hello? You hear me?
Perfect.
Good. I was just gonna say my other one, other than the Lakers and Phoenix, I do think it would be really fun to see just a repeat of last year's finals in terms of Boston actually doing what they should have done last year, which is beat the brakes off the old Golden State Warriors. I think that'd be fun too. I don't want to see Golden State make it to the finals again, though, so I guess I shouldn't pick that one because I feel like I might be reverse jinxing the Warriors to make it that far. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. But we'll see how this all goes. I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in. This was a great stream, and I would love to keep streaming forever, but we've got some commitments that we got to make, so I do apologize to everybody that we can't go any longer. But I hope you guys did get a chance to check out the stream, checked out what we talked about. The guy who came in here talking about the EuroLeague basketball, that's actually on one of my bucket lists to do over the summer. I'm hoping that there's games during the summer because I would love to go during some of those times and watch some EuroLeague basketball because I understand how impactful that basketball is starting to become and how important the development of worldwide basketball is for everybody. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning into The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions with the emphasis on basketball opinions. Pete, thank you once again for hopping on and giving your takes, man. It's always fun doing it, and we're gonna definitely collaborate a lot more and get more content out there for sure.
Oh, bro. Thank you for having me. Can't wait to see what happens in these playoffs, dude. It's honestly the best setup for a great playoffs we've had in a long time. So I am beyond excited just to see what is going to happen.
For sure. And with that being said, thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch everybody on the next episode. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. All that stuff helps us grow tremendously, and we're trying to get past that 1,100 mark and try to get to that 1,500 subscribers. So with your help, we can get there as soon as possible. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Pete, thank you for joining.
Thank you again, Bernie.
And we'll catch everybody on the next episode of The Charge.